Chapter 1522. Mother, what's going on? Give out the rewards in North America. Also, ask the recipient to pass on a message. I want to meet him. He can come to me, or I can go to him and meet him in private. Mother, why? My life is coming to an end. Before that, I want to get more allies for the Scarlet Church and you, Exi said. He's on the same level as me, so the first thing we need to do is convey our goodwill. Speaking of this, Exi couldn't help but sigh. This was clearly the area with the least activity in the spirit world, yet such a person had appeared. If he knew that such a person existed in North America, Exi would have given out more missions in North America. But it was useless to think about this now. Exi hoped to use this opportunity to get to know the person. President, will the Scarlet Church go back on their word? Morid was restless after not receiving any news in the past few days. He hadn't thought about it at first, but now he was looking forward to it. After all, it was equivalent to doubling his mana. Who wouldn't want such a good thing? If the Scarlet Church wants to go back on their word, then we'll have to change our tour route this year, Chen said disapprovingly. The supernatural organization isn't the kind of place where we'll just admit our bad luck if someone goes back on their word. Chen didn't care about the value of the prize. Even if it was just a dime, he had to pay back what he owed. This was natural. Okay, remember to come tomorrow night, Chen said. It's Jerlin's birthday. Oh, got it. Just as Chen was about to go home, Little Grove ran to him. Teacher, I want to ask you how to use the glutton bloodline. How do you feel now? My appetite has increased by several times, and my body has also improved. I'm still hungry a lot. Try to compress the mana in your mouth, Chen said. Then learn an elemental spell, a low-level one. Then try to release it with your mouth, like this. Jen raised his right arm and opened the mouth of gluttony. A huge electric arc shot out from the mouth. The greater the mana compression pressure, the more powerful the verbal cannon will be. Of course, there is another way to use it, and that is to absorb external attacks. However, your bloodline is too thin, so I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand the energy of external attacks. Oh, I see. Anyway, there are only two basic ways to use the verbal cannon. I just need to practice it repeatedly. Ritter Grove was also very satisfied with the Jima Island trial. Although his battle record was not outstanding, he had unexpectedly obtained the bloodline of gluttony, which allowed his strength to soar in a short period of time. Coupled with the flaw insight talent that he had awakened before, his current strength could be considered to have achieved some success. That was why he valued the gluttony bloodline very much. The entire society knew about Chen's gluttonous bloodline, so he was undoubtedly the most authoritative person in this field. Also, there are many special ways to use the glutton bloodline. You can explore them yourself, but don't use the disgusting ones, like eating people. I really can't stand it. Understood, teacher. Even he could not accept it, let alone Chin. Go tell Wesh that I'm driving the society's truck. We need to prepare a lot of things for Jerlin's birthday party. Our car is too small. Teacher, let me help you, Ritter Grove volunteered. Jen thought about it and nodded. All right, let's do it. Chin drove the truck and went to the supermarket with Lit Grove. Because there would be many customers tomorrow, they had to prepare a lot of things. After arriving at the supermarket, Chen and Ritter Grove started their shopping spree. The beer was, of course, his own Dashin beer. Although Chin could actually get Denver to send dozens of cases of beer with just a phone call, Chin did not want to do that. After all, no matter how much beer was sent, it had to be recorded. For a proper enterprise, even if it was through connections, it still needed to be recorded in the accounts. Dashin beer was currently in the market development stage and was developing very well. Chen Shiwang hoped that he could keep this up. Thus, even if he wanted his own beer, Chen would buy it from the supermarket instead of calling. So even if he wanted his own beer, Chen would go to the supermarket to buy it instead of calling for it. The supermarket employees were all dumbfounded. They all thought that Chen also ran a supermarket. Chen and Ritter Grove worked for 2 hours and filled the entire container. "Teacher, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Do you want to come to my place for a while?" "No, I haven't been home for 2 days. I plan to go home." "No, I haven't been home for the past 2 days. I plan to go home." As soon as Chen got into the truck, he received a call from Gurette. "Chen, my boat has reached your Mirror Lake. Where's your house? How come it's gone now?" Gurette was shocked. "Did I go to the wrong place? Why is it gone now?" Gu Lai's face was full of surprise. "Did I go to the wrong place?" Gurette had never been to Mirror Lake, and Chen didn't tell her the address. Chen Yi slapped his forehead. "I forgot. You're sailing the ship out to sea now. The typhoon last time blew away my villa at Mirror Lake. I haven't even had time to rebuild it." Due to the curse of her ancestors, Gu Lai was unable to go ashore. She could only wander the seas or islands for the rest of her life. Her connections and information on land couldn't be compared to her influence on the sea. After Chen Zai told them the location of the Mingyue villa, he drove the truck home. However, just as the truck left the supermarket parking lot, the car in front suddenly stopped. Duong rear end. Chen's face darkened. He looked around. There were no surveillance cameras. That would be troublesome. The police and the insurance company would need to intervene to determine who was responsible for the accident. Chen got out of the car. He couldn't lose face now. 2 people got out of the car in front. They were both Asians with black hair, black eyes, and yellow skin. Before Jen could say anything, the other party immediately complained. One of the young men immediately pointed at Chen and yelled, "How do you drive? Do you know how to drive?" They were speaking Mandarin, so Chen felt like they had just left the country. If he was Chinese, he should be used to speaking English. "How do you drive? This is the exit." You suddenly stopped. "Are you trying to blackmail me?" Chen retorted, "Compensate me. Otherwise, I will call the police. My car has surveillance cameras." Pull up load next chapters. Chapter 1523. Can't, stop it. It's my fault. I messed up the brake and accelerator. The older man pulled the younger man. He seemed to want to keep the peace, and he even wanted to take the responsibility himself. However, he had gotten off from the passenger seat. He clearly wasn't driving. Li Yukong clearly didn't want to appreciate it. He pushed his agent away. "Shou Yu, go away. This has nothing to do with you. Kong, this isn't China. You should control yourself," Shou Yu said earnestly. As Li Yukong's agent, Shou Yu had a headache. At least in China, there are contacts and ways. If Li Yukong makes trouble, he can solve it. His methods wouldn't work overseas. Li Yukong wasn't a complete idiot. He saw that Chen also spoke Mandarin and was at most a truck driver. That was why Li Yukong dared to be so unscrupulous. If it were a foreigner, he would probably choose to keep the peace. "Fuck off. You're overseas and you still care about me," Li Yukong said unhappily. At the same time, he pointed at Chen's nose and yelled, "Do you know how much my car costs? Surveillance, right? Who are you trying to fool? Do you believe that I can sue you until you go bankrupt with a phone call?" Chen suddenly grabbed Li Yukong's hair and slammed him against the window. Then he flung him. Shou Yu was dumbfounded. Li Yukong's head was bleeding. After slapping him again, Chen lifted Li Yukong. You seem to know that this is overseas. Do you believe that I'll kill you today? Just then, a familiar voice came from behind Chen. Don't move. Chen turned around and saw Sharon's familiar face. She pointed a gun at his back. Sharon was stunned when she saw Chen. Zhou Yu saw Sharon and immediately ran to her. At the same time, he yelled in English, "Help, help. This person is attacking us. He's going to kill us." Sharon immediately turned the gun. I told you not to move. Lie on the ground and put your hands where I can see them. Zhou Yu was dumbfounded. He clearly couldn't get used to the foreign police. The police in China almost didn't know how to use guns, but overseas, they pulled out their guns almost every time they carried out a mission. I'll sue you. I'll sue you. Li Yukong roared at Chen. Hi, Shalon. Chen Zhao casually threw Li Yukong to the ground and gave Sharon a warm hug. Long time no see. Zhou Yu cursed inwardly. Chen and Sharon were so familiar with each other. When he got close to Shalon, she turned her spear around. However, Chen, the perpetrator, could even hug Sarah directly. They didn't look like ordinary friends. Chen, tell me what's going on. Chen told her the whole story. Saran nodded and asked, Chen, so you're saying that he threatened you and your family's safety? That's why you beat him up, right? Chen Zhao tried to recall what he had just said. Did she misunderstand something? No way, I've made myself very clear. With Sharon's dutiful personality, she shouldn't be so blatantly biased towards him, right? Zhou Yu grew anxious. Saran was clearly protecting Chen. It's not like that, it's not like that. It's... Zhou Yu tried to explain. Lie on the ground and don't move. I have the right to shoot. Sharon pointed the gun at Zhou Yu again and threatened. Although it wasn't good to watch a foreigner bully his fellow countrymen, Chen still felt great. Zhou Yu finally came to his senses. Chen clearly wasn't an ordinary truck driver. At least, this policewoman and Chen had a special relationship. Then, Chen, who was supposed to be the suspect, became a witness. Zhou Yu and Li Yukong were the suspects. They were handcuffed and thrown into the police car. Sharon and Chen stood outside the car. You just have to insist that the man threatened your family, Sharon said. Why are you doing this? It's too risky for you. After all, Sharon's current actions involved malfeasance and favoritism. If Chen was arrested because of this, he would at most have to pay a compensation fee. After all, he had a huge legal team. Li Yukong and Zhou Yu couldn't do anything to him abroad. But if Sharon's matter was exposed, it would be very serious for her. Thank you for last time, Sharon said. Last time, Chen had gone to jail to help her. Although Chen had been cleared of suspicion, Sharon still remembered it. Chen grinned. I'll talk to David and send a lawyer too. Try to suppress this matter. Don't make a big deal out of it. Suppress it was to use the lawyer to threaten Li Yukong and Zhou Yu so that they could keep the peace. If it became a big deal, it wouldn't matter to Chen, but it would be very dangerous for Sharon. Okay. Sharon didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Sharon glanced at Chen's truck. Are you broke? You've fallen to driving a truck. Oh, it's my daughter's birthday party tomorrow. Are you coming? Forget it. I have a lot of things to do. Fine. Chen shrugged. Call me if you need anything. You have my number, right? Then, Chen drove away. At the same time, he called Alex. Then, he explained everything that had happened just now in detail. Alex, go to the police station right now. I hope this can end here. Don't get me or my police friends involved. Okay, I understand. Alex wasn't joking with Chin. She wouldn't have any ambiguity when it came to her work. After Zhou Yu and Li Yukong were sent to the police station, Li Yukong was still yelling while Zhou Yu was silent. He was weighing the pros and cons and whether he could get justice. But when Alex rushed into the police station with a dozen lawyers, Zhou Yu completely gave up on pursuing the case. When Zhou Yu heard that the truck driver was a billion-dollar super tycoon, he completely lost the courage to fight back. Whether in China or abroad, offending a billion-dollar super tycoon was a very scary thing. Moreover, they were tourists who didn't have any connections abroad. Moreover, this was America, where guns were rampant. Too many movies and TV shows had reflected this problem. If they continued to insist on pursuing charges, then it was likely that when they walked out of the police station, they would be shot in the head by bullets that came from nowhere. Alex didn't say this, but she told Zhou Yu that her employer was very rich and knew people from all walks of life. They couldn't win this case. Pull up load next chapters. Chapter 1524. Zhou Yu and the annoyed Li Yukong walked out of the police station. Zhou Yu still had lingering fears, while Li Yukong was indignant. Damn Americans. Li Yukong gritted his teeth. Don't they say that the American police are fair and honest? Why are they so brazenly bending the law? Why are you stopping me from suing them? It's not like I don't have money to hire a lawyer. Sue. Sue who? That policewoman. Or that truck driver. You don't even know who they are, and you dare to spout nonsense here. What's there to be afraid of? I have money. Do you know how much it costs to hire a team of more than 10 lawyers? How can a truck driver have that much money? Zhou Yu wished he could crack open Li Yukong's head. Forget about everything else. If the legal team finds out about your identity and then exaggerates the things you did abroad to the domestic media, then you'll be banned. Li Yukong's face darkened as he looked at Zhou Yu. Hearing this, Li Yukong calmed down. Being banned was a disaster for any artist. He was rich, but he also owed the bank money. If he was banned, he would basically go bankrupt. Zhou Yu glanced at Li Yukong. He felt that if Li Yukong could not control his temper, he would have to apply to the company to freeze him. Li Yukong's ability to get into trouble was much stronger than his ability to make money. This matter was originally caused by Li Yukong. Stepping on the brakes for no reason was a small matter as long as the two parties communicated well. But it was unknown where Li Yukong got his confidence from. He felt that just because the other party was a truck driver, he could bully them as he pleased. Or perhaps they had read some information online and felt that the Chinese in America were all very timid and afraid of trouble. In the end, not only was he beaten up, he was almost sued. Threatening the personal safety of others was punishable by jail time in America. At this moment, a sports car stopped by the roadside. Wang He got out of the car. Kong. Brother Wang. Li Yukong showed enough respect to his seniors in the same company. After all, Wang He was not just a simple senior. He was now the boss of the company. Other than Chen Lin, his words held the most weight. Even though Li Yukong had some weight in the company, if Wang He wanted to deal with him, it would only take a word from him. What happened to your face? Were you beaten up? Don't mention it. It's really fucking unlucky. Li Yukong suddenly had a stomach full of resentment to vent. Zhou Yu was afraid that Li Yukong would incite Wang He to join in, so he quickly interrupted Li Yukong. I met a ghost when I went out this time. A truck driver is actually a billionaire. I got into trouble for no reason. Zhou Yu was pointing out that they had gotten themselves into quite a bit of trouble this time, so he wanted Wang He to stay away from them and not get involved in their mess. Compared to the crazy Li Yukong, Wang He was much wiser. When she heard Zhou Yu's words, she could read between the lines. Little Kong, this is America, not our country. We don't have any connections, so it's better to keep a low profile. If we cause trouble here, the Americans won't help us. Got it, Brother Wang. Hearing Wang He's words, Li Yukong also gave up. Clean up. There's a party tomorrow. The two famous directors, James and Stephen, will be there. I'll introduce you then. If the wound on your face can't heal, put some powder on it to cover it, Wang He said. Also, the owner's identity isn't ordinary. You better control your temper. If you offend him, Wang He's expression suddenly darkened. He had clearly thought of the unpleasant past. Back then, he had found someone to teach Chen Zhao a lesson. In the end, the gang leader had been stuffed into a meat grinder by Chen Zhao. The gang members had all been left behind too. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Wang He had an unforgettable fear of Chen Zhao. But after a few encounters, he could feel it. As long as he didn't go against Chen Zhao, he seemed harmless. Remember, take care of your temper, Yi Zichen said. Got it, Brother Wang, Li Yukong replied nonchalantly. Don't worry, Brother Wang. I'll take care of little Kong, Zhou Yu said. Chen Zhao went to the dock of Mingyue Villa to welcome Gurette. However, Gurette couldn't go ashore, so she could only stay on the boat. Even Chen Zhao couldn't do anything about it. It was a curse from her family. It was deeply ingrained in her bloodline. Even if Chen Zhao could devour the curse, he couldn't do anything about it. Of course, Gurette didn't insist on going ashore. For her, the curse was only a little troublesome. It wasn't too much trouble. She didn't want to break the curse in her life either. This time, Gurette came alone. After all, she was here to attend Jerlin's birthday party, not to do business. If her brutish subordinates made Chen Zhao unhappy, they would definitely be punished. Chen Zhao might throw them into the sea to feed the sharks. Chen, this is the information I've gathered about Treasure Island. Take a look. Chen Zhao took the document from Gurette. In the past 50 years, I've investigated a total of 8 reports and information about strange islands. The most recent one was a sailor who encountered a shipwreck and was washed to an island by the sea. It was said that on that island, he encountered a terrifying snake monster. Then, on a stormy night, he boarded a wooden raft that he built and escaped from the island. After drifting on the sea for 3 days, he was rescued. Chen Zhao read the document while listening to Gurette's narration. Is there anything in common between the 8 sightings of the strange island? The 8 sightings all happened near the area where the Philippine Sea and the Pacific Ocean meet. Without exception, they all encountered a storm at sea. Encountered a storm and saw strange islands. In the 7 oceans, there are actually some islands that even the current satellites can't observe, Gurette said. Why? Because of the interference of the Earth's magnetic field, Gurette said. Gurette said, take spy satellites for example. Spy satellites send electromagnetic signals to the ground and receive feedback signals. Then, they generate images through computer calculation and processing. If they are interfered with by magnetic fields, then no images can be generated. This is also the limitation of current technology. You're not familiar enough with this. I'm a pirate. Right now, the navies of various countries are using satellites to attack pirates. Almost every pirate ship is equipped with a magnetic field interference device to prevent government navies from finding traces. Gurette paused. In stormy weather, the magnetic field might be affected by the weather, resulting in a temporary exposure. So, I suspect that Treasure Island is in the area where the Philippine Sea and the Pacific Ocean meet. That area is at least 1 or 2 million square kilometers, right? It's so difficult to find a few islands in such a large area. Chapter 1525. Then, Chen Zhao thought of another problem. If it's just a magnetic field, Chen Zhao said, even if the satellites can't detect it, the nearby ships can't find it. After all, the naked eye won't be blocked. Chen Zhao flipped through all the documents. The most Gurette could find was the area between the Pacific Ocean and the Philippine Sea. It was impossible to narrow it down further. But this was already Gurette's limit. If the treasure island was really so easy to find, it wouldn't be undiscovered for hundreds of years. This also meant that the location of the treasure island and the 7 islands might not be in a normal space. Chen Zhao had entered different spaces many times. Even the Tower of Trials of the Supernatural Organization was a type of space. So, Chen Zhao had no doubt that the treasure island was hidden in a different space. But how could he find the entrance? Whatever. If he couldn't figure it out, then he wouldn't think about it. Because Gurette couldn't go ashore, Fei Lai brought the 2 kids to Gurette's boat for dinner that night. The next day, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai got busy. After all, there were many guests at the party tonight. Just Fei Lai invited Robio and a dozen members of the coastal rescue team. There were even more customers at Chen Zhao's side. David and Kate had also taken the day off to help Chen Zhao. David and Kate had come to Mingyue Villa once. This was their second time. They weren't married yet. Back then, they were about to break up. After some things, their relationship actually stabilized. But they were both workaholics. David was now the captain of the crime division in the police station. He was even busier at work now. Kate was a reporter and couldn't stand on the ground. Right now, their relationship was in a strangely stable stage. They might not even see each other once a week, but they seemed to use this relationship as a regulating agent. Anyway, Chen Zhao couldn't understand Kate and David's strange and complicated feelings. However, Kate seemed to want a child. After coming to Mingyue Villa, she took care of the child with Fei Lai. From her words, Chen Zhao could tell what she wanted. The second group of guests was Ethan and Li Qing. They were also here to help. Hearing that Li Qing was here, Dell hurried over as well. He was here to be a laborer. Mary came with Dell. Mary arrived, and so did Bant and Ken. Leonardo came next, followed by Risvar's family. The women gathered together, and so did the children. Little Jerlin, Fisher, Ronnie, and Vera were behaving wildly on the beach. Sister Faith, Sister Ronnie, Sister Vera, come here. Let me introduce you. Jerlin seemed to be showing off. At that moment, the dolphin family swam to the shore. Big fish, big fish. Faith cried out in surprise. Kids their age didn't know what fear was. The dolphins loved to play with humans. Through Chen Zhao's development, they were already very smart. When he saw the children, he immediately came up to greet them. Lola, Fei Lai, and Kate gathered together. Lola looked worriedly at the children on the shore. Fei Lai, are they okay? Laura, don't worry. As long as they are within 30 kilometers of this sea, you don't have to worry about their safety. Even if they go into the sea, there will be something to protect them. What is it? Fei Lai would never tell her that the sharks would protect them. Meanwhile, Chen Zhao, David, and Leonardo leaned against the glass fence and chatted about the past. However, as more and more guests arrived, Chen Zhao couldn't keep David and Leonardo company. Since he was having a party at home, he had to take care of every guest. What are those people doing? They don't look like good people. Leonardo pointed at Klaus and the members of the lightning team who had just arrived. David glanced at Leonardo. He knew some of Chen Zhao's secrets better than Leonardo. Klaus and the others had an aura that was familiar to him. These people should have taken the strength potion. They must be Qin Zhao's friends if they can come here. Is Qin Zhao involved in gangs? Leonardo's expression was conflicted. After all, he was a police officer. He was thinking about what he would do if he discovered Qin Zhao breaking the law. You're thinking too much. David rolled his eyes. He knew that Qin Zhao was the biggest shareholder of Dashan Beer. It was too easy for Qin Zhao to earn money. Did he need to be involved in gangs? What Qin Zhao didn't expect was that when Rasfa and Steven came, they brought a few female celebrities. Robio, on the other hand, had brought a group of handsome men and beautiful women. The people from the coastal rescue team were indeed very pleasing to the eye. Is this Fei Lai and Chen's new home? It's so big and beautiful. Most of the coastal rescue team members were very familiar with Qin Zhao and Fei Lai. One or two had joined while Fei Lai was on leave. Therefore, they weren't familiar with the two. Look, isn't that Director Steven? It's true. Don't shout, Robio said. Mr. Steven and Chen are good friends. He's also their daughter's godfather. It's not strange. After receiving Steven and Rasfa, Qin Zhao hurried over to greet Robio and the others. Hi, Chen, long time no see. Qin Zhao and Robio hugged. A few familiar coastal rescue team members also greeted Qin Zhao. Especially the female team members. They looked at Qin Zhao as if he was gold. The Mirror Lake Villa was already enough to make them jealous. Now that they saw Qin Zhao's huge manor, they felt like they'd missed out on 100 million. Also, from Robio's occasional words, Qin Zhao seemed to be unbelievably rich. The yacht park below wasn't the former Fei Lai. Instead, it was an even bigger and more luxurious yacht. The new team members that Qin Zhao didn't know also introduced themselves. Chen, when do you plan on letting Fei Lai come back? Another month. Little Larissa hasn't been weaned yet. Qin Zhao planned to wean little Larissa in around 3 months. Logically speaking, with current technology and conditions, there was no lack of nutrition. However, breast milk could provide a child with something that other dairy products couldn't. That was, not excessive nutrition. Take protein for example. Milk powder could also be used to supplement infants, but the biggest difference between milk powder and breast milk was that there was a possibility of excess protein, but breast milk would not. This was because the mother's body would make the most suitable nutrition for the child. This was also the greatest thing about a mother. Chapter 1526. Wang He arrived at Mingyue Villa before the sky turned dark. It was his first time at Chen's house. Last time, he went to Mirror Lake Villa. He didn't expect this place to be even more luxurious than Mirror Lake. Wang He couldn't help but want to build a villa like this in China. But thinking about the policies in China, he gave up on the idea. When Wang He entered, he saw that it was full of guests. Wang He found Steven, who was chatting with another old man. Wang He recognized the old man with Steven. It was Rasfa, PLMCOE. Mr. Steven, hello. Mr. Rasfa, hello. Hi, Wang, you're here. Did you get Chen's invitation too? Yes. Wang He shook hands with the two old men. How have you been? I've been traveling. I just arrived in Los Angeles. I'm also doing promotions in China, Wang He said. Apart from press conferences, the most effective way to promote in China was to go on variety shows. Moreover, it was effective and profitable. After all, with Wang He's status, a show would earn him hundreds of thousands. Thanks for your hard work, Steven said encouragingly. Wang He smiled. Hard work. It was indeed hard. His feet barely touched the ground. Sometimes, he had to go to 2 TV stations in a day. But this was unimaginable in the past. If he was a worthless artist, he wouldn't even have the chance to participate in shows. Even the US TV interview programs would invite him to record promotional programs. Where's Mr. Chin? I'll go say hi to him. Wang He had been in the United States for quite some time and had attended quite a number of parties, so he had basically familiarized himself with the local customs here. After saying goodbye to Stephen and Rasfa politely, he went to find Chin. Wang He had already found Chin. There were many guests today, but Chin's figure was very eye-catching. Mr. Chin. Wang He walked over. Wang He, you're here. Did it affect your work? Mr. Chin, you must be joking. It's my honor to attend your party. Chen Lin is here too. Go and chat with her. I'm busy. Okay, I won't disturb you anymore. After Chen left, Wang He took out his phone and called Li Yukong. Kong, where are you? Brother Wang, I'm on the coast road now. Why does your friend live in such a remote place? Really, there's not even a ghost. Li Yukong complained. Cut the crap and come quickly. The guests are almost all here. After Li Yukong hung up the call with Wang He felt extremely disdainful. Don't all the rich people live in Beverly Hills? What kind of reputation could those who lived here have? However, out of respect for Wang He did not say much. Is that Brother Wang? Yes, he's urging us to go there earlier. Zhou Yu's dissatisfaction with Li Yukong was almost at its peak. She had been urging him to come earlier since 3:00. As a result, Li Yukong had been dragging his feet until now. 20 minutes later, the two could vaguely see the brightly lit villa on the cliff in front of them. It should be there. Li Yukong drove the car into the fork and found the parking lot under the guidance of the sign. At the same time, he gave Wang He a call. Brother Wang, I've arrived. Come up after you've parked the car. Li Yukong and Zhou Yu enjoyed the scenery along the way. I really don't know what the rich are thinking. Instead of living in the city, they live in a place like this in the middle of nowhere. When they arrived at the villa, the view suddenly opened up. There were quite a number of beautiful women forming a beautiful scenery, which immediately attracted Li Yukong's attention. Li Yukong purposely walked behind a model and brushed his palm against the back of the model. Ah! What are you doing? The model was shocked and turned to glare at Li Yukong. Zhou Yu saw that something was wrong and immediately stepped forward to apologize. Sorry, we didn't do it on purpose. The model walked away in disgust, but Li Yukong felt that he had made a profit. It feels really good. Zhou Yu, help me ask how much it costs for a night. Kong, don't mess around. How am I messing around? I'm an important guest here, after all. The owner of this place will give me some face. In China, Li Yukong had done this kind of thing many times, whether it was an award ceremony or a gathering. No matter how out of line he went, there had never been any problems. Even the organizers would try to cover it up for him. This isn't China, Zhou Yu said. So what? It's not like I don't have money. Don't they say that America is a capitalistic country and the rich are the bosses? Indeed, America was a country where money was everything, but that was to a certain extent. How much money did Li Yukong have? He was just a normal rich man. That was all. He had only debuted for a year. It would be good if he could earn tens of millions, including the company's commission. But just because he had a little fame, he got carried away. Just then, Li Yukong had his eyes on another woman. There are so many beauties here. Li Yukong licked his lips. The woman that Li Yukong had his eyes on was unfortunately Nami, a member of the Lightning team. Nami, who was already good-looking, had a unique heroic spirit, which added a bit of charm to her. Plus, the strength potion had shaped her body, making her skin even smoother. Li Yukong walked up and rubbed against Nami's butt. Nami was stunned at first. She turned around and looked at Li Yukong in shock. She didn't expect something like this to happen in Chen's house. "Miss, how about spending the night with me? Name your price." Li Yukong thought that he was young and rich. As long as he crooked his finger, no woman would be able to escape his grasp. But Nami's reply was a punch. "Ah." Li Yukong covered his eyes and fell to the ground. "Fuck you. How dare you hit me? You bitch." Just then, the guests were all attracted to them. "Kong, what's wrong?" Wang He noticed Li Yukong. Seeing him wailing on the ground with his hands over his eyes, he immediately went up to ask. He didn't know Li Yukong's personality. In fact, he wasn't familiar with him. Li Yukong had joined the company for less than a year. He was already in Los Angeles by then. This time, the company wanted Li Yukong to try his luck in Hollywood. Since Wang He was more familiar with Los Angeles, he asked him to take care of him. "This bitch hit me. This bitch hit me." Wang He looked up at Nami. "Miss, what's wrong?" "This asshole is disturbing me," Nami said furiously. She resisted the urge to pull out her gun. After all, this was Chen's house. She didn't want to fight here. Just then, Chen heard the commotion and walked out. "What's wrong?" "President, this guy is harassing me and insulting me." "Is he your guest?" Seeing Li Yukong, Chen Yi's expression darkened. "Who called him here?" Pull up load next chapters. Chapter 1527. How come it's you? Li Yukong was stunned. Zhou Yu's face was filled with fear. Wang He's heart skipped a beat. "Oh no. Mr. Chen. I called him here. I. Chen Zhao waved his hand. "Bring him out and this one." Klaus and the others went up and grabbed Li Yukong. "What are you doing?" "Help. Call the police. Call the police." Li Yukong screamed in panic. But this was Mingyue Villa. Even Leonardo and David ignored Li Yukong's cries for help. "Mr. Chen." Wang He went up to plead. "Shut up," Chen Zhao snorted coldly. He didn't have anything against Wang He, but he had a big problem with Wang He bringing this disgusting guy to his house. Turning around, Chen Zhao said, "Sorry, my friends. I need to deal with some personal issues." Everyone here knew Chen Zhao, except for the celebrities and models that Steven and Rasfa had brought with them. These celebrities and models were all smart. They wouldn't step out to stop Chen Zhao. To them, this was just a form of entertainment. Wang He's heart sank. He'd finally built a good relationship with Chen Zhao. This little bastard had ruined nearly a year's worth of hard work in one go. Now, he had to protect Li Yukong. "Mr. Chen, it was our fault yesterday. Please be magnanimous and let us go," Zhou Yu begged in a panic. Wang He's heart skipped a beat. They knew each other. Yesterday, Li Yukong and Zhou Yu had just left the police station. Li Yukong's face had been injured. Was it because of the conflict with Chen Zhao? Wang He's mind went blank. He wanted to slap himself. He really deserved to die. Why didn't he ask who they had a conflict with yesterday? In the end, he even called the two of them here. Klaus carried Li Yukong while Zhou Yu was pushed into the elevator by Nami. Wang He knew how cruel Chen Zhao was. Back then, Chen Zhao had fearlessly stuffed the gang leader into a meat grinder right in front of him. Now that Li Yukong was causing trouble in his house, who knew what Chen Zhao would do to him? Wang He could only follow them into the elevator. He hoped that he could use the face fruit to save Li Yukong and Zhou Yu's lives. I'm warning you, I'm a big star in the country. If you dare to touch a hair on me, the consulate will find trouble with you tomorrow. Wang He suddenly felt like he was drowning. This bastard, can you shut up? You're tired of living, aren't you? At this moment, Klaus had already raised his desert eagle and stuffed it into Li Yukong's mouth. When Zhou Yu saw Klaus use his gun, he was so scared that his hair stood on end. Those who dared to use guns in America were either the police or the mafia. In Zhou Yu's eyes, Chen Zhao was undoubtedly a mafia boss. Chen Zhao looked at Wang He. This has nothing to do with you. What are you doing here? Mr. Chen, I hope you can let him go. This kid is young and doesn't know any better. Chen Zhao had never planned on killing anyone. No matter what, today was little Jerlin's birthday. He didn't want to see blood today. Who is this bastard to you? He's from my company. I'm his senior. Mr. Chen, I'm begging you, please forgive him this time. Wang He wondered what price he would have to pay to protect Li Yukong. Chen Zhao thought about it and asked, even if we're from the same company, there's no need to protect him to the death. Are you familiar with him? The company told me to take care of him overseas. I don't want him to die overseas. Chen Zhao didn't expect Wang He to be so loyal. After exiting the elevator, Zhou Yu and Li Yukong were pushed to the dock. The further they went, the more scared Li Yukong and Zhou Yu became. On the boat, Guret saw Chen Zhao and the others. Chen, who are they? They're my subordinates. They're causing trouble in my house. Oh, do you need my help? I can make them disappear. Li Yukong and Zhou Yu almost peed their pants. This man was indeed a mafia boss. No need, Chen Zhao said calmly. I just need to punish them a little. Li Yukong and Zhou Yu were pushed onto Guret's boat. 1,000 meters from the dock. Wang He looked at Li Yukong and Zhou Yu worriedly. He wanted to speak several times, but Chen Zhao stopped him every time. Wang He, I have a good impression of you. Don't say anything else. Don't make me hate you. Wang He decisively shut up. He had already done what he needed to say and what he needed to do. If he couldn't save them, there was nothing else he could do. After the boat was 1,000 meters away, Li Yukong and Zhou Yu were pushed into the water. Swim back to shore. Oh, I have sharks here. Li Yukong and Zhou Yu didn't believe it at first, but soon, they saw shark fins charging toward them. Help! Let me on the boat, let me on the boat. I don't want to die. Li Yukong screamed. Zhou Yu swam toward the dock with all his might. He couldn't care about Li Yukong anymore. No, he didn't want to care about Li Yukong at all. He wanted Li Yukong to die. All of this was Li Yukong's fault. The huge shark under the water was already circling around. Even the naked eye could see it clearly. I advise you to swim back now. Otherwise, you'll really be fed to the sharks. Chen Zhao stood at the edge of the boat and looked at Li Yukong mockingly. Gritting his teeth, Li Yukong started swimming immediately. The great white shark, Old Guan, leaped up from below. The huge water wave flipped Li Yukong over. Li Yukong peed his pants. Laughter came from the boat. Wang He was even more nervous. Li Yukong came back to his senses and swam with all his might again. But before long, Old Guan came out of the water again and flipped Li Yukong over again. Confused, Wang He tilted his head to look at Chen Zhao. The great white shark could have eaten Li Yukong immediately. But it didn't do so. It was too strange. After a few more tricks, Li Yukong was out of energy. He flopped a few times on the water and looked like he was about to sink. Nami, have you vented your anger? Chen Zhao asked, turning his head. Yeah, almost. If it's not enough, give him another shot. Forget it. It's Jerlin's birthday today. I don't want to kill anyone. Gurette, do you have fishing nets on your boat? Chen Zhao asked. Gurette was a pirate. Of course, he had fishing nets on his boat. Of course, a pirate's fishing net was used to capture people, not to catch fish. A while later, Li Yukong was fished out of the water. Chen Zhao put his arm on Wang He's shoulder. Let's continue the party. Don't let him ruin your mood. Chapter 1528. Chen Zhao was also troubled that Gurette couldn't go ashore. While everyone was laughing and chatting, Gurette stayed on the boat alone. It really didn't make sense. But Chen Zhao couldn't leave everyone hanging just to entertain Gurette. Chen Zhao even regretted calling Gurette over. The boat reached the shore. Zhou Yu sat on the dock, trembling. Li Yukong had been thrown off the boat. He hadn't recovered yet and was also trembling on the ground. Klaus glanced at the two. Get out now. Don't let me see you in the villa. Nami was at the back. She turned around and ran to Li Yukong. You can try calling the police. I'm looking forward to it. That way, I'll have enough reason to kill you. For the guests of Mingyue Villa, this was just a small interlude. Wang He sighed. Calming himself down, he apologized to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao wouldn't blame Wang He for this. After all, Wang He was very important now. He was related to Chen Zhao's harvest at the end of the year. After the excitement, little Jerlin rode Princess onto the stage. Everyone congratulated Jerlin on her birthday. Dad, I want my birthday to be like Jerlin, Faith said, tugging at Dell. Dell's face twitched. He looked at Risvar. Risvar and Laura each held Vera and Ronnie's hands. Risvar seemed to be facing the same problem. So, they glanced at each other at the same time. Basin flapped his wings and slowly landed in front of Jerlin with a small gift box in his hand. Little Jerlin reached out and took the small gift box. Rasfa stood in front of Jerlin. Jerlin, this is the gift Godfather prepared for you. Thank you, Godfather. Faith, Ronnie, and Vera's eyes all lit up as they watched. Chen really is a druid, Daniel murmured. He has more pets now. He and Manny stood beside Zola. Stephen looked at Rasfa and was instantly furious. When had he asked Chen Zhao for help with this gift-giving method? Stephen looked around. Seeing King Kong, he immediately pulled him. Help me give the gift to Jerlin. I'll treat you to a drink later. Stephen felt that it was too uncreative to give it, so he asked King Kong for help. Stephen had talked to King Kong before. He knew that Chen Zhao's pets were all very smart. As a primate, King Kong's IQ was even higher. When he was a guest at Mirror Lake, he once saw King Kong stealing wine to drink. King Kong stood up, hugged the gift Stephen had prepared, and walked with Stephen to Little Jerlin. Little Jerlin, this is a gift from Godfather. Thank you, Godfather, but you can't stop poking Little Jerlin with your beard. Stephen forced a smile, and the crowd chuckled. At that moment, the other guests who had prepared gifts also brought them to Little Jerlin. Chen Zhao didn't let Jerlin open it on the spot. After all, some gifts from guests were expensive, while others were cheap. Chen Zhao did not care if Jerlin's gift was expensive or not, as long as it was sincere. Then, it was time to blow the birthday cake. Chen Zhao had prepared a cake that wasn't too big for Jerlin. Most of the people present did not like to eat cake. After all, its main ingredient was trans fatty acids. For people with poor digestion, eating a mouthful would cause constipation. Even healthy people shouldn't eat too much. Probably only a few little devils and the pets at home would be willing to eat it. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai did not want to eat it anyway. After blowing out the candles, the birthday song sounded again. Little Jerlin, Faith, Ronnie, and Vera started playing again. But children's energy was limited, after all. Adults could eat, drink, and play for an entire night, but children would be exhausted after playing for an hour. Then, under Fei Lai and Laura's care, the 4 children fell asleep in one bedroom. The 2 mothers started talking about parenting. The party continued. For Americans and Europeans, the theme of a party was just an excuse to eat, drink, and play. Chen Zhao could not tell them that it was already late and that they should all leave. But at 2 or 3 in the morning, the guests left one after another. Chen Zhao had already contacted a designated driver for those who were drunk. Some, like Stephen and Rasfa, had their own bodyguards. None of the people from the association left. They followed Chen Zhao to the dock and started drinking with Gurette. The people from the association were old friends with Gurette, so they were very open. The inferior demons started cleaning up the villa. The next day, after sending off the people from the association, Gurette also left. Gurette still had to continue asking about Treasure Island. Sister Nan. Zhou Yu picked up Zhou Xiaonan's call. Zhou Yu, what exactly happened? I just got a call from Wang He. He said that you and Kong got into trouble in LA, but he didn't say what happened. He just asked me to ask you. Zhou Xiaonan was very anxious. She did not know what had happened to Li Yukong and Zhou Yu. She also did not know if she could solve it if something happened to the 2. After all, her connections were all in China. Her connections in America were not even as good as Wang He's. Sister Nan, I suggest that our company terminate the contract with Li Yukong, or just freeze him, Zhou Yu said calmly. Why? What's going on? Although Kong has a bit of a temper, he is currently the focus of our company's training. In the past year, it's not like you don't know how much resources we have invested in him. Sister Nan, if you know what happened to him in LA, you'll think the same as me. Zhou Yu vented all the dissatisfaction he'd accumulated in the past 2 days. He had had enough of Li Yukong. He could tolerate his artist's temper. As a manager, his job was to solve problems. However, there was a prerequisite, and that was that it wouldn't endanger his own life. However, Li Yukong's actions almost cost him his life. No one wanted to do things with their lives on the line. Zhou Yu thought of himself as an ordinary person. He did not have such a strong heart. Zhou Xiaonan listened to Zhou Yu's complaints quietly. She did not expect Li Yukong to be so lawless. Zhou Yu, is what you said true? I have no reason to lie to you. My focus this year has been on Li Yukong. I don't want my work to go to waste unless it's absolutely necessary. But I can't tolerate him anymore. If Sister Nan thinks we can keep him, then he can keep me. I'll give you an explanation, Zhou Xiaonan said. She understood how Zhou Yu felt. After all, they were an entertainment company, not a mafia. No one would be happy if their own artists caused trouble and got themselves killed because of it. Please remember this book's domain name. 9 Heavens God Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1529. After communicating with Zhou Yu, Zhou Xiaonan dialed Wang He's number. Wang He, is Li Yukong really that outrageous? Sister Nan, I know what you're thinking, but Li Yukong is really in big trouble. If I hadn't begged him today, Li Yukong and Zhou Yu would have been fed to the sharks. Wang He's words finally made Zhou Xiaonan make up her mind. Li Yukong had invested a lot of resources, but it wasn't enough to hurt her company. Zhou Yu was an experienced manager. His connections in China were far superior to ordinary managers. To some extent, Zhou Yu was more important than Li Yukong. Most importantly, Li Yukong had offended Chen Zhao. Until now, Zhou Xiaonan still didn't know Chen Zhao's identity. But his influence was undeniable. First of all, Wang He was the company's biggest potential stock. After the movie was released, Wang He might soar like Chen Ke. And Chen Ke was that person's cousin. If she didn't handle it well this time, Wang He and Chen Ke would both complain. She would also offend Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao could influence Steven and Rasfa, and the two of them could influence all of Hollywood. By then, her company's artists would probably cut off their cooperation with Hollywood. That was the last thing she wanted to see. So, instead of making many people unhappy, she might as well cut the Gordian knot. Wang He was actually panicking too. It had been a great chance to get closer to Chen Zhao. But Li Yukong had popped up out of nowhere. Wang He used to be a little fresh meat too. Now that he was a little older, it was hard for him to make money through his fans. But his acting skills weren't good enough to compete with those experienced actors. His only advantage now was being in Steven's movie. As long as he could get good results through Steven's movie, at least no one would say that his acting skills sucked. He would also have a chance to change from a little fresh meat. Even if Chen Zhao didn't have Hollywood connections, he was still rich. This was a powerful connection. Wang He was no longer an idiot. He knew very well how much money a rich person like Chen Zhao could bring him. Such connections weren't only useful in the entertainment industry. For example, Wang He could earn money through performances or runway shows. His money would just rust in the bank. However, if they could hitch a ride through a super rich man like Chen Zhao, they would be able to do so. Then money can make money. Nowadays, those big companies will basically carry out one last round of financing before they go public. Rather than calling it financing, it was more like a subscription. Everyone would get rich together. However, not everyone had the opportunity to purchase the original shares. They are not related to you, so why would they sell their shares to you? For example, before Antihua, the largest entertainment company in the country, went public a few years ago. All the A-list celebrities in the company had subscribed to a portion of the initial shares. Outsiders wouldn't have the chance to buy it even if they wanted to. For example, if a rich person wanted to invest in a movie, he could use his connections to pull strings or get a lead actor. This was the entertainment industry. Some roles were not suited for the role. Instead, the role had been changed to suit the actor. This was also what made Wang He feel the most stifled. He was kind enough to bring Li Yukong here to broaden his horizons and connections. He had warned Li Yukong beforehand. In the end, Li Yukong ignored his warning. They did whatever they wanted in Chen Zhao's manner. Wang He felt like killing someone. But Wang He couldn't do that. If he didn't help Chen Zhao would look down on him. His own company would also distance themselves from him. This was Wang He's smart move. After some thought, Wang He decided to go find Chen Zhao. Even if he couldn't clear his name, he had to at least make his stance clear. Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Wang He. Are you free? I want to meet you. What's up? I mainly want to apologize to you. It's not your fault. But I still want to apologize to you personally. Not just on behalf of myself, but also my company. Wang He's attitude was very sincere. Then let's go to my marina restaurant. I'm busy during the day. Let's meet after 6, Chen Zhao said. Okay, I'll book a room now, Wang He said. No need. I'll just make a call. If Wang He called to book a room, it would probably take 4 or 5 days. Right now, Marina Restaurant was basically no different from Chen Zhao's private business. Chen Zhao had 70% of the shares, although the other 30% was still in Nafa Twain's hands. However, Andrews had said that Nafa Twain couldn't hold on anymore. By then, the 30% would definitely fall into the hands of the bank. With Qin Zhao's relationship with Citibank, if Qin Zhao asked for all the shares, Citibank wouldn't reject him. Ever since then, Nafa Twain had called Qin Zhao many times, hoping to borrow money. But Qin Zhao didn't agree. He felt like he was becoming more and more like a capitalist. Because he wanted the 30% to go back to him. Or just leave it in the bank's hands. It was better than Nafa Twain's. So, Qin Zhao hoped that Nafa Twain would go bankrupt. Qin Zhao and Nafa Twain didn't have any grudges or conflicts of interest. However, Nafa Twain held 30% of Marina Restaurant's shares. So, Qin Zhao hoped that he would go bankrupt. Of course, Qin Zhao wouldn't do anything to him. At least, he didn't let the bank pressure Nafa Twain. Otherwise, Nafa Twain wouldn't have been able to hold on much longer. Right now, Nafa Twain was really at the end of his rope. He had to pay the bank more than 20 million every month and a lot of private loans. He didn't have a stable source of income either. Although he is very famous in Hollywood, it is impossible for him to get tens of millions of dollars for every film. Even though he was a top star in Hollywood, it was already good if he could get a 2+1 movie a year. Compared to his monthly payments, this amount of money was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood. Qin Zhao didn't have to do anything. The loans were enough to make Nafa Twain go bankrupt. Qin Zhao drove to the headquarters of the association. He saw Klaus holding a flamethrower and spraying it at Adu's. Qin Zhao broke out in a cold sweat. "What are you doing?" "President, we're testing the resistance of the silver dragon's dragon scales." Klaus stopped the flamethrower. Adu's was completely unharmed. "But don't look for this old man." "President, don't blame Klaus," Adu said hurriedly. "I asked to participate in this test." "Fine, but be careful," Qin Zhao said. Chapter 1530. The silver dragon scale armor can completely block the flamethrower. Qin Zhao asked. The temperature of the flamethrower can reach 1200 degrees. Once it hits the silver dragon scale armor, the silver dragon scale armor will form a protective barrier to protect the user. However, it won't last long. At most 15 minutes, the silver dragon scale armor will lose its defense, Kaz said. So it's useless. No, the armor will gradually recover its magic power. It'll take at least 12 hours to fully recover. Everyone in the society was preparing to go to the depths of the underground trial. But not everyone was going. First, they had to have enough resistance to the heat. Forget about Adu's. With his body, he didn't need high temperatures. Just running a few laps on the field was enough to make him breathless. If the outside temperature is around 200 degrees, the silver dragon scale armor can last for around 6 hours. Qin Zhao thought about it. When he'd gone to explore, the temperature had only been around 200 degrees. Of course, that was referring to the temperature of the air. Some areas with lava pools were even hotter, nearing 300 degrees. So, the silver dragon scale armor alone clearly wasn't enough. Everyone prepare 3 pieces of silver dragon scale armor, Qin Zhao said. Wear 1 and keep 2. Take turns using the 3. This should greatly reduce the problems caused by the high temperatures. Chairman, Jolig has also designed a mechanical ball that can be loaded with nitrogen. The silver dragon scale armor's recovery speed is greatly increased in low temperatures. This kind of nitrogen mechanical ball can be used just in case. Qin Zhao nodded. You guys are going too? Yes, all of us in the lightning team are going. Then don't bring firearms. You're just asking for trouble. In such a high-temperature environment, who knew when a firearm would explode? Have you decided on a time? Qin Zhao asked. Next weekend, Klaus said. Chen Zhao felt that he should prepare too. When he'd gone, he'd only been half a step away from the clear sky world. He'd been able to handle it easily then. But this time, he wouldn't be alone. He had to protect them. If there was an emergency, he didn't want anyone to die. So, he still had to make some preparations. During this time, everyone in the society was preparing for the underground exploration. Chen Zhao entered the headquarters and found West. West, make a list of the people who are going to explore the underground in the next 2 days. I understand. West nodded. President, I won't go. I'll just be a burden if I go. I'll stay at the headquarters. Sure. This underground exploration was voluntary in the first place. Chen Zhao wouldn't force anyone to go. West was also a support-type spiritualist. The thing he was least good at was fighting. Even though he wasn't weak. However, he had never liked to confront his enemies head-on. Chen Zhao walked around the association. After greeting a few people, he left. There weren't any major issues in the association recently, so he didn't need to deal with them himself. With West around, he didn't have to worry about the small matters. Los Angeles International Airport. A private plane from Europe landed. The entire airport was shut down for an hour. An old woman walked slowly down from the plane. It wasn't Mary's first time in America. She didn't really like the American government. The reason why the American supernatural world wasn't very active was mostly because of the government suppression. It was similar to the plot in the movie X-Men. The American government always had a sense of crisis. Or rather, it was the ideology of the citizens. They had always been resistant to powers that they were unfamiliar with or unable to control. But they also knew that supernatural powers were indispensable. For example, 40 years ago, the American government had invited the 23rd generation Blood Mary and 3 representatives of the supernatural world from Huaxia to help deal with the Turan ghost ship. It wasn't that the government hadn't thought about controlling a supernatural organization. The government had formed supernatural teams more than once. But either they weren't strong enough or they were suppressed everywhere. In the end, the team fell apart. In this regard, China's development was the best. Because for thousands of years, China had formed its own method of inheritance. On the other hand, the Chinese government only blocked this information on the surface. Japan was a copy of China. It was also a region with high supernatural activity. In Asia, China and Japan were the countries and regions with the best development of supernatural organizations. The second best was Thailand, which also had 1 or 2 top figures. There was a certain amount of activity in the supernatural world. Northern Europe was also in the first tier. It also had very active supernatural activities and organizations. Next was Africa and Egypt, one of the 4 ancient civilizations. A bodyguard held an umbrella for the 23rd Blood Mary to shade her from the sun. Grandma, you've been here before, right? Mary seemed excited. This was her first time abroad and it was the famous Hollywood. Yes, the last time was 40 years ago. Mary nodded. Just then, a neatly dressed middle-aged man walked over. Hello, Duke Mary, it's an honor to meet you. This was the mayor of Los Angeles, Denzel. I've already arranged a hotel for you. Mr. Denzel, this time, I am here in my personal capacity, not as a member of the Hungarian royal family. Please do not call me a duke. Just call me a lady. I do not need your arrangements. I have my own arrangements, said 23rd Prince coolly. She had a backup plan. Even if she was facing the Queen of England, she could skip the formalities as an elder. Not to mention this politician who was 100 years younger than her. Denzel looked helpless. He didn't want to care. Receiving such a high-ranking member of the European royal family was a thankless task. She was here as a private person. But if she encountered any trouble or danger in Los Angeles, then he would be finished. People wouldn't care if she was here as a private person or not. They would only blame him for his incompetence and the security of Los Angeles. A member of the European royal family couldn't guarantee her safety. His political enemies wouldn't care about his explanation. They would only take this opportunity to attack him. Madam Mary, I won't delay your trip. I can arrange anything for you in advance. No need. I'm just here for a business event. Madam Mary. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Goodbye, kid. Chapter 1531. Grandma, are we going to the hotel now? Check if there are any good restaurants, he said calmly. His assistant, Emery, was hired by Axii himself. Emera was just an ordinary person. Her understanding of him was limited to that he was the Grand Duke of Hungary. He was related to the royal families of more than 10 European countries. Marina Restaurant. It's the favorite restaurant of the celebrities in LA, yes, make a reservation, he said. Perhaps the celebrities had to wait in line, but it wasn't so troublesome for him. Her identity could solve many problems for her. She didn't even need to wait in line to go to Buckingham Palace. How could she solve it? Simply, she could find the shareholders of the restaurant and call them. Hello, Mr. Chin. I'm the manager of Marina Restaurant, Dai Bowl. What's up? Mr. Chen, a duke from Europe wants to book a room at the restaurant. I want to ask for your opinion. Huh? Are you sure you didn't get scammed? It's from the Hungarian consulate. Oh, Chen Zhao said calmly. Then book it for them. Although Marina Restaurant advocates fairness. But there was no true fairness in the world. Even Chen Zhao had to follow a rule. Having a European Grand Duke come to his restaurant was also a good promotion for Marina's restaurant. Chen Zhao glanced at the time. It was about time to go. He was supposed to meet Wang He at the restaurant at 6. When Chen Zhao arrived at the restaurant, he was half an hour early. Just then, Nafa Twain ran into Chen Zhao's room. Mr. Nafa, how come you're here? Chen Zhao looked at Nafa. He looked rather disheveled at the moment. The last few times he'd seen Nafa, he'd always dressed neatly and didn't lose his poise. But the current Nafa Twain looked a little down and out. Mr. Chen, please help me. Nafa's face was full of bitterness. He hadn't shaved in days. His face was full of stubble and his hair was a little messy. His eyes were unfocused and he looked depressed. When he got close to Chen Zhao could even smell a trace of his scent. Dawn didn't know how long it had been since he last showered. Mr. Nafa, I'm afraid I can't help much. I don't have much cash. I've invested all my money. Chen Zhao hoped that Nafa could leave voluntarily. He did not want to be too harsh with his words, but he would not help Nafa Twain either. The first reason was that he wasn't her friend. Also, Chen Zhao was very vengeful. Nafa Twain had once tried to cheat him of his money. He had already mortgaged 30% of Marina's restaurant's shares several times. He even wanted to sell it to him for $30 million. Just based on this, Chen Zhao would never lend him the money. Now, he was committing suicide. The repeated mortgages caused him to owe more and more money. Andrews had told him that Nafa Twain owed the bank $240 million. However, the amount of money he owed from private loans was probably even more, and private loans were compounded with interest. Chen Zhao was a super rich man now, but he didn't dare to take loan sharks. Usury devoured people without spitting out the bones, whoever touched it would die. Nafa Twain taking loan sharks was tantamount to drinking poison to quench his thirst. It could solve a temporary problem, but he would die a worse death. Moreover, he had mortgaged 30% of Marina's restaurant shares many times. The interest he had to pay was also frighteningly high. He probably owed more than $500 million now. Nafa Twain definitely did not have that many assets. The only thing he could do now was to apply for bankruptcy protection. The result was that the bank would temporarily stop pressuring him. However, all his assets would be frozen. He would lose everything. Of course, this was not the scariest part. The scariest part was that private lenders would not care if he had bankruptcy protection. His best outcome would be to die on the streets. Therefore, he did not dare to apply for bankruptcy protection at all. He felt that he could still make a comeback. He still had a chance. Mr. Chin, please, I'm begging you. Nafa Twain was already kneeling on the ground. He really had nowhere to go. He did not even dare to return home these few days. He only dared to stay in a small hotel and avoid debt collectors. When he turned on his phone, all the calls were from debt collectors. You lied to me before, Chen Zhao said. I know it was my fault, but I was already at my wit's end, Nafa Twain said in despair. He knew that Chen Zhao was rich because he had just heard from a friend that Chen Zhao had ordered a super yacht from a yacht company. It cost $320 million. If Chen Zhao was willing to help him, he would definitely be able to. I have the copyright, Nafa Twain said. I have the rights to a few movies and the Thief series that I starred in. It's a very popular movie series. Do you know how much the global box office for the last one was? $830 million, Nafa Twain said. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. Since you have the copyright, why don't you sell it to the movie company? It's a joint copyright between me and DSN. Other Hollywood companies don't dare to buy it and DSN keeps lowering the price like crazy. Since other companies don't dare to buy it, why do you think I would? You're not from Hollywood. You won't be restricted by them. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. I need to call and ask. Just then, the door to the private room opened. Zhou Yu and Wang He had thought that there was no one in the room, so they entered without knocking. But they saw this awkward scene as soon as they entered. Zhou Yu and Wang He recognized the person kneeling on the ground at first glance. Wasn't it Nafa Twain, a Hollywood A-list star? Can you guys wait outside for a while? I have some private matters to discuss with Mr. Nafa. My apologies, Mr. Chin. Wang He closed the door respectfully. Brother Wang, what's going on? That's a Hollywood superstar, right? Mr. Chen has very powerful connections in Hollywood, Wang He said calmly. Don't ask what you shouldn't. It's not good for you to know too much. Yes, I know. Zhou Yu wasn't a rash person like Li Yukong. However, he had already imagined what he had just seen. In his mind, he was sure that Chen Zhao's background was absolutely terrifying. Even Hollywood A-list superstars had to bow to him. Wang He was also curious why Nafa Twain had knelt to Chen Zhao. However, he was smart enough not to ask. It had nothing to do with him anyway. He and Zhou Yu waited patiently outside the door. Chapter 1532. Stephen, do you know Nafa Twain? Yes. Why? Stephen was confused. Nafa Twain was a top Hollywood star, after all. He definitely knew him. Of course, they had never met or worked together before. Therefore, they only knew each other, but were not familiar with each other. He has a few movie copyrights, right? Yes, but what does that have to do with you? I want to know the value of his copyrights. Chen Zhao did not avoid Nafa. It seemed that Nafa did not plan to avoid him either. He could not wait anymore. He did not want to waste any more time. He did not have time to waste either. The most valuable things in his hands are the copyrights of the Stealing God series and The Extraordinary Life. However, Stealing God doesn't have the full copyright. I remember that 50% of it is in the hands of DSN, as well as the copyrights of a few other bestsellers. However, it hasn't been verified by the movie market, so we can't determine its value. Help me estimate the price. You want to buy it. Nafa Twain wants to sell it to you. How is that possible? Stephen exclaimed. Anyway, he does want to sell it to me. Wait, this is big. You better call your lawyer here. Also, I'll help you do an evaluation and call a notary as a third party. Chen Zhao looked at Nafa Twain. We'll do the deal tomorrow, but I have one last question. You haven't mortgaged the copyrights, right? No, of course not, Nafa Twain said. But I still don't understand. Even if Hollywood companies don't dare to take your copyrights, I'm not the only rich person outside of Hollywood. No one will care about DSN. Can't you contact someone else? Mr. Chen, you're not the first rich person I've found. I hope to sell them at a price that's worth these copyrights. I don't want to sell them like trash. I hope to use these copyrights to solve my current debt crisis. Okay, I understand, Chen Zhao said. As long as the copyrights are fine, I'll give you a satisfactory price. Chen Zhao had $100 million in his bank account, but it was definitely not enough to buy the copyrights. So, if he really wanted to buy Nafa Twain's movie copyrights, he would have to get a loan from the bank. Of course, buying copyrights and mortgaging copyrights were different. Copyrights that had been mortgaged could not be traded. Therefore, he needed a notary and a lawyer to carry out the transaction. This way, he could ensure that he wouldn't be fooled. If there's nothing else, please go back. I still have guests. Then, goodbye. Nafa Twain seemed to have recovered a little of his elegance. It seemed that the debt problem had caused quite a lot of pressure on him. Now that he had gotten Chen Zhao's verbal reply, he could temporarily relax. After Nafa Twain went out, Wang He and Zhou Yu came in. Mr. Chen. Yes, sit. Chen Zhao nodded. Zhou Yu didn't sit down. Instead, he stood before him. Mr. Chen, I apologize for the conflict 2 days ago. Zhou Yu had no intention of pushing the blame away. Instead, he took the initiative to apologize. This improved Chen Zhao's impression of Zhou Yu. After all, Zhou Yu hadn't really been rude to Chen Zhao. Throughout the entire process, Zhou Yu had been trying to smooth things over. If it weren't for Li Youkong's brain, it wouldn't have evolved into the following situation. In Chen Zhao's eyes, Zhou Yu was someone who knew when to stop. It's fine. Have a seat. We didn't get to know each other until we fought. Chen Zhao smiled. This meant that Chen Zhao had accepted Zhou Yu's apology. Mr. Chen, what do you do for a living? I just run a small factory, Chen Zhao said, smiling. I'm a doctor and a part-time teacher at a university. Zhou Yu, Mr. Chen is a professor at UCLA, Wang He said. He didn't want Zhou Yu to think that Chen Zhao was an uneducated bumpkin. Even if Zhou Yu was a mafia boss, he was still a cultured gangster. As for the small factory, Wang He thought that it was some kind of contraband factory. I was blind. I didn't expect Mr. Chen to be a professor. Zhou Yu really didn't expect Chen Zhao to be a university professor. At first, he really thought that Chen Zhao was a mafia boss who couldn't earn clean money. But in Wang He's eyes, Chen Zhao was someone who had eyes and ears everywhere. After all, Hollywood was famous for being xenophobic. It was extremely difficult for foreign capital to enter Hollywood. Even a big shot like Waltz couldn't enter Hollywood. But Chen Zhao could do it, so Wang He never thought of Chen Zhao as a normal person. Mr. Chen, when did you go abroad? 2 years ago. Chen Zhao clearly remembered the days when he was abroad. After all, it was a turning point in his life. It was October 1st 2 years ago. 1.5 months later, it would be 2 years. To Chen Zhao, it was his homeland. But there wasn't anyone or anything that he would miss. University classmate. He didn't contact them after he left the university. Or the ex-girlfriend that he broke up with. Chen Zhao didn't have any thoughts of nostalgia. Mr. Chen, if you have time to come back, remember to contact me. I'll definitely arrange it for you. Sure. If I come back, I'll contact you guys first. As soon as Chen Zhao finished speaking, a strange feeling surged over him. At the same time, below Marina's restaurant, Xi, who had just gotten out of the car, suddenly felt something special. Her domain seemed to have come into contact with something. Domain? A beam of light shot out of Xi's eyes. She really didn't expect to sense another person's domain here. The two domains came into contact but didn't fight. But it was like two water balls touching each other. They sensed each other's existence. Grandma, what's wrong? Marna Bloody Mary asked in confusion. Boss, are you not feeling well? Do you need to change the route? Amara asked. Xi stood there for a few minutes and then waved her hand. Nothing. Let's go up. When Xi reached the floor where Marina's restaurant was, the feeling became even clearer. That person was also on this floor. It seemed that he was in the restaurant. 23rd generation entered the restaurant as if he was looking for something. Amara, Marna Bloody Mary, and the two bodyguards followed behind him. They didn't know what Xi wanted to do, but they wisely kept quiet. Finally, Xi confirmed the person's location and walked to the door of a private room. Knock, knock. Please come in. A voice came from the room. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 1533. Xi pushed the door of the private room and saw 3 Asians inside. But her eyes were like torches. Soon, she realized that 2 of them had no magic power. The youngest among them also didn't have any magic power, but he made her feel danger. Hello, sir. I'm from Europe. Xi looked at Chen Zhao. Madam, do we know each other? Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes at Xi. He could feel that the old woman was filled with surging magic power. He had never felt this before. The old woman was like a huge bomb. No, she was more like a huge battery full of energy. Powerful. Unparalleled power. Even all the people in the supernatural organization combined didn't have as much magic power as her. Of course, except for Chen Zhao. Xi was also a bit distracted. This man was too young. So young that it was scary. He was 30 years younger than her daughter. However, he already possessed the same level of strength as him, or perhaps even close to him. Excuse me, are you from China? Yes, is there a problem? Chen Zhao asked. As for Wang He and Zhou Yu, they sat at the side obediently. They didn't know why, but they felt that this old woman wasn't an ordinary person. She had a kind of temperament, a kind of high and mighty temperament. Xi's gaze was still on Chen Zhao. So he was from China. That place was scary. Another person like this had appeared, and he was so young. So young that it was scary. In the next 100 years, all spiritualists in the world would be under his shadow. No problem. I just want to be friends. Ah. Chen Zhao didn't know how to answer her request. However, he could also sense that this old lady was extraordinary. You're actually hesitating. Do you know who my grandma is? She's the Grand Duke of Hungary. Chen Zhao didn't seem to care, but Wang He and Zhou Yu were really scared. Why did a Grand Duke suddenly appear out of nowhere and want to be friends with Chen Zhao? Marna, shut up. Xi glanced at her granddaughter. Marna Bloody Mary met her grandmother's gaze and immediately shrunk back. Marna Bloody Mary knew very well how scary he was, even though 23rd Gen always spoiled her. Young man, I want to talk to you. Exchange, what? 23rd Gen suddenly opened his eyes. Chen Zhao immediately felt an oppressive aura coming at him. Wang He and Zhou Yu did not feel anything. In fact, they did not even know what had happened. The 23rd generation's grasp of aura had surpassed Chen Zhao's. But to Chen Zhao, this pressure wasn't too strong. It wasn't even as strong as the pressure from the dragon's might. Chen Zhao stood up and turned to Wang He and Zhou Yu at the same time. Sorry, I might have some matters to attend to. Let's meet up for dinner another day. Alright, Mr. Chen. We won't disturb you then. The two of them didn't stay any longer. After Wang He and Zhou Yu left, Chen Zhao also stood up. Let's find another place to communicate. Of course, it's too narrow here. 23rd generation nodded. Emera, you guys go back to the hotel first. I still have things to do with this gentleman. Grandma, Mana Bloody Mary didn't want to leave just like that. Emera and the two bodyguards didn't understand what was going on. However, they would not feel at ease leaving their boss here with a stranger like him. Forget it, Chen Zhao suddenly rejected. You're too old, Chen Zhao suddenly rejected. If you were 100 years younger, we might be able to talk. 23rd generation's eyes suddenly froze. Instantly, Chen Zhao felt a huge force coming at him. Bang! Chen Zhao was sent flying and smashed into the wall. Emera and the two bodyguards stared at Chen Zhao, who was embedded in the wall, in shock. What happened? What happened? Just then, Chen Zhao broke away from the wall. Old man, you're really strong, but it's not enough for us to fight. I've already made one move, 23rd generation said. You too. Chen Zhao reached out and pressed the air before him. The air before him felt like a huge piece of rubber. It wasn't just the air before him. Chen Zhao also felt like he was wrapped in rubber. Forget it. Chen Zhao shook his head. 23rd generation looked at Chen Zhao. Did you destroy Turin? Ha! Chen Zhao looked up at the 23rd generation. Are you Blood Mary? Yes, 23rd generation replied, nodding. Emera was dumbfounded. Her mind was in a mess. She couldn't understand a single word that 23rd generation and this man were talking about. This restaurant is mine, Chen Zhao said. You better compensate me. What if I force you to fight? 23rd generation asked. Then you better consider the safety of the people behind you, Chen Zhao said. Why aren't you willing to fight? Chen Zhao could indeed feel how strong 23rd generation was. She was even a unique existence from him. However, he would use a killing move as soon as he started. He couldn't stop at all. 23rd generation was indeed strong, but she was too old. Chen Zhao was afraid that he would kill her. This wasn't a joke. He could vaguely feel that 23rd generation was about to die. She didn't have long to live. Chen Zhao didn't want to kill the leader of a famous paranormal organization. He also didn't want to turn her into an enemy. He also didn't want to become a murderer. Even if she was the one who asked to fight. You're afraid of hurting me? 23rd generation asked. Chen Zhao nodded. I believe that you're not weak, but you're really old. 23rd generation didn't seem to be satisfied with her age. Her palms released a weak light. The places that the light spread to suddenly twisted. 23rd generation looked at Qin Zhao provocatively. Are you that confident that you can beat me? Qin Zhao wasn't surprised by the spatial distortion. It was an alternate dimension. Everyone around them had disappeared. Apart from Qin Zhao and 23rd generation, only Mana Blood Mary was still here. Perhaps 23rd generation had purposely kept her here, or perhaps it was because Mana Blood Mary had magic. You don't need to worry about hurting others or causing destruction here, 23rd generation said. Come. Let me see where you get your confidence from. How can you be so sure that you can beat me? Qin Zhao looked around. I'm an enhancer. My greatest ability is destruction and destruction. Who do you think you're facing? My grandmother is the greatest witch, the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Godly Emperor mobile version. Chapter 1534. Mana Bloody Mary worshipped her grandmother to the max. In her eyes, 23rd was an omnipotent god. Is this spell exclusive to your domain? Or a single spell? Why? Do you want to learn it? 23rd was very smart. Seeing Qin Zhao's eyes, he knew what he wanted. Beat me and I'll teach you this spell. Are there any restrictions? Qin Zhao asked. Not every spell could be learned. Some spells had restrictions. No. You just need enough magic power. That's not a problem for you. 23rd looked at Qin Zhao. I haven't been serious for many years. Qin Zhao grinned. Troublesome. She was probably the most troublesome opponent he'd ever met. Even if he was facing someone from the association, it didn't matter if he used a little more strength. But this old woman. Qin Zhao didn't know if he would hurt her if he used a little more strength. On one hand, she wasn't a real enemy. On the other hand, Qin Zhao wasn't sure how strong her defense was. Qin Zhao took a deep breath. Then don't blame me if I use too much strength. I'm not that weak, 23rd said. By now, Qin Zhao's magic power had compressed his entire left arm and shoulder. Qin Zhao lifted his left arm and punched out from a few meters away. Bang! Tons of power whizzed out. 23RD's expression changed. The air in front of her compressed again and again. When the fist was 1 meter away from 23rd, it suddenly slowed down. Then, the fist suddenly smashed out in the opposite direction, toward Qin Zhao. Bang! Qin Zhao was sent flying by his own fist. Ha! Mana Bloody Mary pointed at Qin Zhao and laughed. I thought you were strong, but you're only at this level. After all, Qin Zhao had been so powerful earlier. Mana Bloody Mary thought that Qin Zhao could really beat her grandmother. In the end, he was sent flying by his own fist. Qin Zhao stood up and patted himself. Qin Zhao was hit by his own fist and was actually slightly injured. 23RD's expression changed slightly. She knew very well how terrifying that attack was. Qin Zhao's punch had invaded his territory. It was almost a meter away from him. If it wasn't for the fact that his territory was special and could counter Qin Zhao's enhancements, he would have been injured. But the scariest thing was that Qin Zhao wasn't really injured after being hit by his own power. It seemed like an enhancing-type spiritualist who had reached this realm was extremely terrifying. I have a rough idea of your strength, said 23rd generation. She had the right to say this now, because Qin Zhao had been at a disadvantage in the previous exchange. Grand Duke, Qin Zhao said, rubbing his nose. I think I know how strong you are. Oh. It seems like you're not very satisfied. 23rd Gen looked at Qin Zhao. Did he still have a trump card that he hadn't used yet? External incarnation, all techniques return to 1. Seeing Chen Zhao cast a clone spell and then combine into one, 23rd Gen was a bit surprised. What kind of spell was this? Spell Return to One was Chen Zhao's personal domain spell. Grand Duke, if you have any other trump cards, it's best to use them now. I won't hold back anymore. Just use whatever moves you have. My domain spells are indestructible. 23rd Gen sounded arrogant, but she wasn't careless when facing Chen Zhao. 23rd Gen's domain spell could increase the pressure in the air within her domain. Different pressure also represented different air resistance. Just now, 23rd Gen had reflected Chen Zhao's fist shadows using air resistance. However, the air resistance just now had already reached a substantial pressure. It had shaped the air resistance into the level of elastic rubber. Therefore, the stronger Chen Zhao's power was, the stronger the reflected force would be. But that wasn't 23rd Gen's limit. Steel airflow. 23rd Gen could make the air resistance close to the thickness of steel. Chen Zhao suddenly raised his arms. Fist shadows. In an instant, Chen Zhao's arms were like a storm, pouring out endless shadows of punches. Each strike had tens of thousands of tons of power. Loud rumbling sounds came from the air. It was like a thunderstorm. 23rd Gen's expression changed drastically. Her domain was being broken rapidly. Like an onion being pulled apart, the layers were peeled off one by one. Such a terrifying attack power. The steel airflow couldn't block such brutal pure power at all. When the fist shadows were less than 1 meter away from 23rd Gen, she yelled. Stop, stop. Chen Zhao immediately retracted his fists. At the moment, his fists were glowing red, like soldering iron. You're not bad. It's a draw, 23rd Gen said. Grandma, why? He hasn't even touched you after attacking for so long. He's clearly much weaker than you. Why is it a draw? While Mana was confused, she was also very unhappy. She felt that even a draw was an insult to 23rd General. However, 23rd Gen couldn't say anything. Perhaps Chen Zhao wasn't the strongest human in the world. But he was definitely the most destructive human in the world. What did Chen Zhao do? To put it simply, he pierced through a steel wall that was 50 meters thick. What did that mean? Even an atomic bomb couldn't break the defense. Chen Zhao did it. Of course, it didn't mean that Chen Zhao's destructive power surpassed an atomic bomb. It also didn't mean that 23rd Gen could block an atomic bomb. Because Chen Zhao's attack power had different levels. He didn't pierce through the wall in one go. Instead, he pierced through 23rd Gen's domain bit by bit. 23rd Gen and Chen Zhao were two extremes. 23rd Gen was an absolute defense, while Chen Zhao was an extreme destructive power. One side could only defend. The result was already decided. No matter how strong the defense was, it would be broken eventually. So, from the beginning to the end, Chen Zhao was undefeatable. It wasn't that 23rd Gen couldn't attack, but her attack spells didn't pose much of a threat to Chen Zhao. This was why 23rd Gen would call for Chen Zhao to stop when her domain was about to be broken. You're the most talented spiritualist I've ever seen. Even if it's a draw, I'll still teach you that spell. Chen Zhao shrugged. Fine, whatever you say. It was fine as long as he got the spell. Except for Mana, who was very unhappy. Chapter 1535. Actually, both Chen Zhao and 23rd knew what the result would be. At their level, after a few exchanges, they would know each other's strengths and weaknesses. Gen 23 was indeed strong, but in this battle, Chen Zhao clearly had the upper hand. Of course, neither Chen Zhao nor 23rd had used their full strength. It was just one crazy attack and the other passive defense. The outcome was already decided. 23rd was too old. She couldn't use her full strength. But Qin Zhao was young enough. Plus, he had an enhanced body. He could do whatever he wanted. Granny. Mana wanted to express her dissatisfaction. 23rd waved his hand. Instantly, the alternate dimension shrank back. Whoosh, Amara and the two bodyguards came back to their senses in an instant. It was a strange feeling. Amara was confused. Looking at Qin Zhao, 23rd took out a scroll and handed it to Qin Zhao. Sir, this is for you. Qin Zhao opened the scroll. He couldn't understand it. It wasn't English. What language was this? Grand Duke, what do I think of this? That's your problem. I've already kept my promise. Grandma, that belongs to our family. How can you give it to him? Mana Bloody Mary yelled in dissatisfaction. Amara looked at the scroll in Qin Zhao's hand. She was a normal person. She was an ordinary person, but she knew that 23rd was the Grand Duke of Hungary. His family was even more prominent than the royal family. The scroll that 23rd had given Qin Zhao was inlaid with golden patterns. It didn't look ordinary. It was clearly something used by European royals. She just didn't understand why they would give it to a Chinese. Qin Zhao flipped it around and couldn't find anything. Then, he put the scroll away. Fine. Have a good meal. Of course, you have to pay for the damage to the restaurant. Qin Zhao wasn't familiar with them, so he wouldn't feign civility. Plus, he didn't think that he had to bow down to them. After all, they didn't have much interaction. As for their noble status, in today's society, it could be called glory. But to say that it really had any use, it didn't seem to have any use. Even if they were compared to the big shots on Wall Street, it was unlikely that those big shots would care about these European nobles. Qin Zhao was the same. In this country, once you had enough money, everyone could enjoy the same treatment. For example, the police chief of the city's police department would not offend the other party for the sake of either a billionaire or a billionaire with a net worth of 10 billion USD. As for the political power, it was a move that would tear off all pretense of cordiality. No one was easy to knead. It was impossible for the 23rd generation to fight to the death for such a trivial matter. When he got home, he picked up the phone again. Hey, Wang He. I'm sorry. Due to an unexpected situation today, dinner was ruined. Mr. Chen, it's okay. You didn't do it on purpose. Wang He had just checked online and found out the identity of the old lady from before. She was the Grand Duke of Hungary. This made him even more shocked. Just what kind of background did Qin Zhao have to be able to interact with European nobles? Moreover, they were not ordinary nobles, but true nobles. In Europe's aristocratic circle, the Grand Duke was the most powerful noble. Some European countries didn't even have a royal family, and the Grand Duke was the ruler. Of course, the royals and nobles of most countries had already withdrawn from the political circle. But they still had unparalleled political influence. For example, England's Prime Minister still had to be conferred a title by the Queen. For important national decisions, even if they were voted by the Parliament, they still had to go to Buckingham Palace and ask for the Queen's permission. Tell Zhou Yu I'm sorry. Okay, I'll tell him. Oh, how long are you guys staying in LA? Let's arrange another time. Within this week. Then let's do it the day after tomorrow. I'm busy tomorrow. Sure, no problem. Wang He had grown a lot in the past year. He knew that all of his qualifications and all of his fame were nothing in the eyes of some big shots. So, when he faced Qin Zhao, he had to be serious and respectful. Acting like a big shot in front of Qin Zhao was undoubtedly the stupidest thing to do. Actually, Qin Zhao's mentality had changed too. He realized that he also needed to develop connections. But he had pitifully few connections. Regardless of whether they were useful or not, maintaining a good relationship wouldn't hurt anyone. If it was 2 years ago, or even a year ago, Qin Zhao wouldn't bother to communicate with people he wasn't familiar with. Fei Lai came down from upstairs. "Chen, have you had dinner?" "Not yet." "Did you eat?" "Me neither." "Let's have dinner together." "Okay." Qin Zhao took out the scroll and handed it to Fei Lai. "Fei Lai, do you recognize this language?" Fei Lai took the scroll and looked at it. "I don't." There were also letters on it, but they weren't the normal ones. Most of them were similar to letters, and there were some pictograms. The combination of the letters was also very special. It wasn't English at all. Fei Lai opened the scroll and pointed it at the camera in the room. "Butler, can you translate this?" The camera immediately scanned the words. This is medieval Greek language. It should be used between 500 BC and 300 AD. The system doesn't have any related information. I can link it to the internet. I can translate 20%, but I can't completely recognize or translate it. I can only translate 20%. Qin Zhao was speechless. He'd been tricked by that old woman from the 23rd generation. No wonder she'd given the scroll to him so easily. So, as she knew that he wouldn't be able to translate the contents of the scroll. Although Qin Zhao was depressed, there was nothing he could do. He would ask the people in the association later and see if anyone could translate it. The salt and pepper octopus was delicious. Even Fei Lai ate an entire tentacle, ignoring the high fat content. Recently, Qin Zhao had been working very hard on Fei Lai's body. Moreover, he didn't have any protective measures. He didn't want Fei Lai to go back to work in the coastal rescue team. Qin Zhao hoped that he could make Fei Lai pregnant again in 3 months. Unfortunately, Fei Lai's stomach didn't move. But this wasn't strange. Last time, Fei Lai had gotten pregnant through a wish. Thinking of this, Qin Zhao suddenly slapped his head. He shouldn't have made a wish to make Fei Lai pregnant. He should have made a wish to make Fei Lai's fertility function normal. At night, Qin Zhao sat on the balcony and watched the sparkling sea. Little Larissa was like little Geraldine a year ago. She would wake up a few times at night. Recently, Qin Zhao had insomnia. Yes, he couldn't sleep. He hadn't slept for about 10 days. Chapter 1536. Actually, it was more accurate to say that he didn't feel sleepy at all. It seemed to start from compressing his mana. After calming little Larissa down, Qin Zhao returned to the bedroom to check on Fei Lai. She was fast asleep too. Qin Zhao planned to enter the river diagram and try to compress his mana completely there. As soon as he entered, Qin Zhao felt a pain in his head. Then, the many days of insomnia disappeared without medicine. When Qin Zhao woke up again, it was already 5 days later. "Old turtle, are you crazy? You hit me so hard." Qin Zhao held the back of his head. Even after such a long time, Qin Zhao still felt that the back of his head was heavy, as if there was a 100-ton weight hanging on it. "Kid, you really dare to mess around." Old Turtle looked at Qin Zhao exasperatedly. "What did I do?" Qin Zhao looked at Old Turtle, confused. "What's with the mana in your left arm?" "Oh. This is what I came up with." Qin Zhao told her his thoughts and intentions. Old Turtle's gaze toward Qin Zhao changed. It was a gaze of admiration. But Qin Zhao knew that Old Turtle definitely wouldn't admire him. What a joke. How could an elephant admire an ant? Does your family know that you're so awesome? My idea doesn't work. Chen Zhao asked. Since ancient times, I've never seen anyone who dares to cultivate like you. Not even the demons. Anyway, you're the best. That's not right. Back then, you said that you wanted me to create my own method and walk a path that belongs to me. Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle in surprise. Now that I've thought of a method, you're pouring cold water on me. Of course. If you want to create your own method, you need to have a profound foundation in spells and Taoism. Then, through gradual improvement and exploration, you can create a set of cultivation methods. In the end, you didn't create a method and instead went down the wrong path. Wrong path? You're saying that I've gone mad? I don't know, Old Turtle said. If you continue to train and grow like normal, I can teach you. But you've gone down a path that I don't understand at all through compression. I can't teach you anymore. I can't. Isn't it just compressing mana? What's the big deal? Just cultivate the way you should. You think you just compressed your magic power? What else? Chen Zhao didn't think it was a big deal. The mana in your right arm looks like it's real, but it's not. I don't even know what it is, Old Turtle said. That's not right. I don't feel any changes in my mana. Moreover, I didn't feel any changes when I was fighting. Because you're not strong enough, you can't sense anything deeper. However, I can sense that your left arm no longer contains mana. Then what should we do? Should I disperse the magic power? Can you disperse it? Amused, Old Turtle looked at him. With the recovery speed of your little world, you can immediately replenish as much magic power as you lose. Whatever. I made the wrong move. I can't cut off my left arm, right? Chen Zhao was heartless. I'll compress all the mana in my body first. That's fine. It's impossible to reverse the situation anyway. Let me see how you do it. Logically speaking, this kind of compression shouldn't change the structure of magic power. Chen Zhao started to compress his magic power in front of Old Turtle. Chen Zhao had just finished compressing a part of his chest when Old Turtle pointed with his finger. A finger-sized piece of flesh went missing. The pain made Chen Zhao break out in a cold sweat. He cursed, Old Turtle, why are you so cruel? Old Turtle poked at the piece of flesh on Chen Zhao's chest with a suspicious expression. That's weird. There doesn't seem to be anything special when you compress your magic power. Why does it taste different after you're done? Chen Zhao waited for his chest to heal before compressing his magic power again. Old Turtle kept studying Chen Zhao's fingernail-sized chest. Chen Zhao didn't know what he was studying. A month passed. Chen Zhao had already compressed all the mana in his body by 90%. However, the small piece of flesh on Old Turtle's finger was still as bright as before. Chen Zhao was about to speak when Old Turtle suddenly tossed the piece of flesh into his mouth. This scared Chen Zhao. Damn, Old Turtle, you're not going to eat me, are you? Fuck off. I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Old Turtle glared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's magic compression seemed to have put Old Turtle in a bottleneck. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out what exactly went wrong. If it was just magic compression, Old Turtle could do it with one finger. But even if Old Turtle compressed the magic power himself, he only changed the quality of the magic power. He didn't change its essence. This change probably came from Chen Zhao himself. Old Turtle, what's wrong? Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle's worried expression. Maybe you're right. It took Old Turtle a long time to squeeze out this sentence. What do you mean? The river map has been thousands of years. The outside world has changed. I've even forgotten my ambition. Old Turtle, don't be crazy. How about I get you a psychiatrist? Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle, worried. Fuck off. I'm normal. Old Turtle glared at Chen Zhao. Then what's wrong with you? You've clearly not been normal recently. For cultivation, the East calls it spiritual power, while the West calls it magic power. But in general, there's no difference. Even though I've cultivated for thousands of years in the river map, I still can't change the essence of magic power. The only difference is the amount. But your magic power can't be called magic or spiritual power anymore. Then what should I call it? Chen Zhao didn't understand why Old Turtle was saying this. Divine power. Yes. The West calls it divine power, while the East calls it immortal power. Stop joking. You sound like I'm about to ascend. Chen Zhao's face was full of disdain. I'm not joking, and what you said about ascending is indeed true. It's just that you're still countless times away from ascending. Old Turtle glanced at Chen Zhao. My only chance to leave the river map is to ascend. It seems like the opportunity is on you. Chen Zhao shuddered. I'm not Xuanzang. Old Turtle, don't look at me like that. Fuck off, Old Turtle. I need to understand your secrets. Why does magic power turn into immortal power after you compress it? But what's the point of immortal power? Cleanse the tendons and meridians, awaken supernatural powers, just like the ancient gods. Old Turtle, your words are getting more and more mysterious. I keep feeling like you're not reliable. Chen Zhao was a bit scared. That ancient god should be much older than you. They don't even have a speck of dust left. I'm probably not stronger than them. With your cultivation, you can probably beat them up too. Chapter 1537. Those ancient gods aren't dead, Old Turtle said. They've left the world. Breaking through the void. Ascending. I don't know, but they're not dead. Just look at Goddess Nuwa who suppressed me in the river diagram. Even if I've cultivated for millions of years, I'm still an ant before her, not to mention the thousands of ancient gods. Old Turtle shook his head. Although the ancient gods have left the world, they've left their own dojos. The sects that evolved later are the legacies of the ancient gods. However, after thousands of years of evolution, they've adapted to humans. That's why they've gradually cultivated to become what they are now. Originally, they were cultivating to become immortals, but now, they can only cultivate spiritual power. The so-called breaking through the void and ascending to become immortals has become a legend. Now that you've understood this technique, are you planning to follow their footsteps? Chen Zhao asked. I didn't say that I'm following their footsteps. On one hand, I want to pursue a higher realm. Just like how you want to become stronger, so do I. Moreover, if I want to leave the river diagram, there's no other way but to ascend. According to you, I have celestial power in my body now. Does that mean I can also live forever? You're thinking too much. You can increase your lifespan, but you can't live forever. Then what do we do now? That's if you don't think about eating me. Technically, mana and fairy power are a process of energy conversion, Old Turtle said. But I don't know what mechanism your body has to complete the conversion. If I can understand it, I'll be able to ascend to the heavens soon. That's right, Old Turtle said. First, the energy conversion process. Let's make an assumption. That is, magical power is converted to celestial power. First, celestial power is 10 times more powerful than magical power. Of course, at least 10 times. Yes, that should be the case. Old Turtle nodded. Otherwise, your magical power would have changed long ago. Previously, I mainly practiced the. There shouldn't be anything special about this technique. You know the contents of the. Old Turtle nodded again. Although the demon techniques he practiced were different from human techniques, they were all the same. With his experience, he could naturally see the depth of the Qingyi manual. Then there are two possibilities. One is the problem of bloodline. In addition to the human bloodline, I also have the bloodline of the king of gluttony and the king of wrath. But in hell, there are millions of demons with these two bloodlines. Even in the human world, there are many hybrids of these two bloodlines. However, they don't have magic power with special characteristics, so this possibility can be ruled out. Old Turtle thought for a moment and nodded. Is there another possibility? It's the key, Chen Zhao said. Old Turtle had heard Chen Zhao mention the key. It must be said that this thing was also a strange item. The Old Turtle had heard of keys before, but he had never seen the real thing. Chen Zhao had once placed the key before him, but he couldn't see it or even feel it. Chen Zhao had five keys. Among them, 5 had fused with him. The other 3 keys had always been in his spatial ring, unused. He didn't know how to use them either. One of them was a gold key, which had never reacted to magic power. The gold key was a key for the evolution of the body, so this possibility could be ruled out. The second dead key could absorb soul fragments of people with the same type. The dead key's main effect was on the soul. It also wouldn't affect magic power. Then, the only thing that could possibly affect magic power was the 5 key. It was also the half-finished blood key. This blood key had shattered in the battle. At the center of the altar on Nasamara, everyone had been hit by the explosion. Halise and her mother, Ava, who had been hit, had their magic power increase. Chen Zhao had also been within the range of the impact, but he hadn't felt any change in magic power. But he could clearly feel that something had entered his body. If he was right, it was the blood-red key. To Nasamara, the blood key was the Agama bridge, the key to the other side. In No Cimarron civilization, Agama meant heaven. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and told Old Turtle what had happened on Nasamara. Old Turtle also sank into deep thought. Now, Chen Zhao and Old Turtle could basically confirm it. Chen Zhao's magic power had turned into immortal power because of the blood key. Old Turtle, I have an idea. Tell me. The blood-colored key was refined using the blood essence of hundreds of thousands of people in the No Cimarron civilization. Let's not think about the refining process for now. Let's analyze the final effect of using the blood-colored key. Since the blood-colored key is called the Agama bridge, the key to the other side, its function is to catalyze. Okay, continue. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao. The blood key directly affects magic power. I thought it was a half-finished product, but now it seems like it's actually a finished product. It's just that there's a requirement for who it can be used on. For example, me. Stop being so smug and continue, Old Turtle said, glaring at Chen Zhao. From a scientific point of view, we need the blood of hundreds of thousands of people to complete this process. This means that the amount of blood in a single human body is very small. This should be an extraction and purification process. Is there anything in a human body that is very rare? Chen Zhao asked. What is rare in a human body? Of course. There are many rare elements in the human body. No, don't think about the nutrients. Those are trace elements that can be synthesized artificially. I think that something that needs to be refined by killing hundreds of thousands of people must only be in people. Other things or species don't have it. What exactly is it? Magic, Chen Zhao said. Magic? Normal people don't have magic at all. No, normal people have magic too, Chen Zhao said. In my supernatural organization, we've created a magic power standard. It's using a regular person's magic power as 1 unit of magic power. I also call it Wanadu's magic power. You're saying that the ultimate goal of killing hundreds of thousands of people is to obtain hundreds of thousands of magic value? According to the unit of magic power you set, ordinary people may not be able to reach hundreds of thousands of magic power, but your current magic power value has reached that value, and I far exceed this value. Logically speaking, I should have ascended long ago. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1538. No. Everyone has a unique magical power. It's like a human fingerprint. It's like how when I absorb other people's magical power through the mouth of gluttony, I have a magical allergy, so I don't think this refinement is just magical power. Then what is it? I think it's the genes of magical power, Chen Zhao said. It's like the evolution of a species, Chen Zhao said. It's the evolution of genes. I think that turning magic power into immortal power is actually a kind of magic power evolution process. So, this refining process is more like extracting the diversity of magic power and then making up for the inadequacies of one's magic power genes to reach perfection and complete the evolution process in the end. Old Turtle raised an eyebrow, as if he'd understood something. I get it, Old Turtle said after a long while. Wait. You get it? What do you get? Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle, confused. You'll understand when the time is right. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao meaningfully. Fuck, I hate people like you. You only say half of a sentence. No, you don't even understand half. What do you mean I'll understand when the time is right? Chen Zhao jumped up and pointed at Old Turtle's nose, cursing. Fuck off. I'm going into seclusion. Come back in 100 years and see me for the last time. 100 years. That's a little more than a month. Chen Zhao's head hurt. Oh, you're going to ascend. Who's going to teach me? I can only grasp the key now. Let's talk in 100 years. Fuck, speak clearly. When I ascend, I'll go to the immortal world to find you. Depressed, Chen Zhao was chased out by Old Turtle. But Old Turtle's words still lingered in Chen Zhao's mind. He was the right one. In other words, he'd accidentally found the right path. Old Turtle had also said that with divine power, he could awaken supernatural powers. But where was the supernatural power? How could he awaken it? He thought about it for the whole night. In the end, he was kicked in the back and fell off the balcony. Looking back, he saw Fei Lai looking up angrily from the balcony. Why aren't you sleeping? You sat on the balcony for the whole night. Are you tired of me? Chen Zhao broke out in a cold sweat. What was with Fei Lai's fluent Chinese? Chen Zhao kicked off the ground and jumped onto the balcony of the 3rd floor. Just then, he subconsciously shook his body. The magic power in his body, or rather, the immortal power, sank and stabilized his body. This feeling. This was the feeling of flying freely. It's not the same thing as floating out of control. When all the magic power in his body turned into immortal power, he realized that the quality of immortal power wasn't the same. He could more easily control the quality of his immortal energy, and thus control his flight or landing. Darling, you look different. Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao, who was flying outside the balcony, in confusion. How is it different? I don't know. Chen Zhao picked up Fei Lai and flew toward the sea. Just as the saying went, he wanted to become an immortal, but he couldn't let go of the mortal world. He didn't even have a chance of becoming an immortal. Chen Zhao didn't fly too fast. Fei Lai couldn't handle high speeds. Chen Zhao only felt that the sunlight was very comfortable. It was as if all the cells in his body had come alive. Fei Lai's head rested on Chen Zhao's shoulder, also bathing in the sunlight. They circled the sea unhurriedly. 2 hours later, Chen Zhao returned home with Fei Lai. Jerlin had already woken up. She was eating breakfast with the help of an inferior demon. Little Larissa was also pecking at her milk bottle. To be honest, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai weren't very good parents. Of course, their love was enough. But in terms of taking care of 2 kids, they couldn't even compare to the inferior demon. Of course, because of the inferior demon, they couldn't hire a nanny or servant. Moreover, paternal and maternal love could not be manifested by doing everything by themselves. After breakfast, Chen Zhao carried Jerlin to Stephen's studio. On the phone with Stephen yesterday, Stephen told Chen Zhao to bring Jerlin when he went to his place this morning. When Chen Zhao arrived at Stephen's studio, he could enter and leave freely even without a work card. Most employees in Stephen's studio knew Chen Zhao and Jerlin, including the security guard at the door. "Miss Yu, is Stephen here?" Chen Zhao asked Yu Wenhui. "Mr. Stephen is on his way. He'll be here in 20 minutes, Yu Wenhui answered. Yu Wenhui replied, "Mr. Chen, you can wait in Mr. Stephen's office first. Would you like some coffee?" Not everyone could enter Stephen's office, except for Chen Zhao. There was no place in the studio that Chen Zhao couldn't go. Plus, the studio was a mess. Apart from Stephen's spacious office, there was nowhere else for Chen Zhao and Jerlin to rest. "Do you have tea?" Chen Zhao asked. "Sure, please wait a moment." A while later, Stephen pushed open the door and walked in. He first saw Chen Zhao sitting on his chair with his legs propped up on his desk. His face darkened immediately. Then he saw Jerlin standing on top of the cabinet in the office. The drawers were pulled out layer by layer. Jerlin had climbed to the top of the cabinet by climbing the stairs. "Chen!" Stephen roared in anger. "Is this how you look at a child?" When Jerlin was at Mirror Lake, she climbed a lot of trees, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. Actually, if Jerlin fell from the top of the cabinet, Chen Zhao could appear under it instantly. He was very confident in his speed. Famtis walked in, holding Evan's hand. "Hi, Chen." Famtis was Stephen's bodyguard. She had heard Stephen's roar, so she came in to take a look. Then she realized that it was Chen Zhao who had made Stephen roar. One, on the other hand, jumped onto the sofa and lay down to rest. Spotted. Spotted cat. Jerlin's interest was immediately piqued when she saw Evan. It was Jerlin's first time seeing Evan. She immediately wanted to jump down. Stephen hurriedly reached out and carried little Jerlin down from the cabinet. Jerlin wasn't afraid of Evan at all. Evan was used to interacting with humans. After all, he came to Stephen's studio every day. Everyone in the studio knew him. "Famtis, help me take care of Jerlin," Stephen said. "I have something to discuss with Chen." "Okay, Mr. Stephen." Chen Zhao and Stephen walked out of the office. Stephen looked at Chen Zhao. "Chen, why did you buy Nafa Twain's copyrights? Do you want to enter Hollywood?" "No, I just want to be a middleman." Chapter 1539. Chen Zhao didn't want to buy Nafa Twain's movie rights to enter Hollywood. To be honest, unless he invested in Stephen's movies, Hollywood's box office profits were very average. A Beyond Grade A movie had an investment of more than $100 million. The filming, production, and release period was 1 to 2 years. It was already a huge profit if the box office profit was tens of millions of US dollars. These tens of millions of US dollars still needed to be cut. It was more likely that the box office alone wouldn't be enough to cover the cost. They needed to earn money through the copyrights of other things, such as games, TV series, and other products. These copyrights and products were basically the exclusive profits of big companies. It was almost impossible for small companies or individual investors to obtain these profits. For people like Chen Zhao, no matter how rich they were, they couldn't really set foot in Hollywood's true profit point. Therefore, Chen Zhao wasn't interested in investing in Hollywood movies at all. Even though Chen Zhao, Steven, and Rasfa had invested in a movie before, it was more out of interest. It would be best if they could earn money. Even if they couldn't, it wouldn't affect their friendship. As for saving Nafa Twain, Chen Zhao didn't care about his life or death. Chen Zhao only felt that it was profitable, so he took action. That was all. Nafa Twain and DSN each own 50% of the most valuable copyrights to the Master Thief series. There have been 6 movies in the series so far, and 2 of them have suffered losses at the box office. However, the latest one has grossed $830 million worldwide. Coupled with the sale of the peripherals, DSN's profit from this movie has reached $200 million. Therefore, just this series alone requires at least $500 million for you to be able to buy the copyrights. In addition, Nafa Twain is the absolute protagonist of this series. Even if the copyrights are sold, he will still have a say in this movie. At that time, he will definitely ask for a higher salary and a share of the box office. Therefore, you will also need an agreement that requires him to not quit in at least the next 3 movies in the Master Thief series, and the salary must not exceed $20 million. Steven knew the rules of Hollywood too well. If Nafa Twain lost the copyrights to the Thief series, he would definitely ask for an exorbitant amount for the next movie to make up for his loss. As long as Chen Zhao could get this agreement, the value of the thieving series would increase greatly. $500 million. Chen Zhao's expression changed slightly. This number was much higher than he had imagined. The Extraordinary Life is also a movie series, and the first movie has already been released. It suffered a small loss at the box office, but we've already recovered our cost from the surrounding merchandise. In Hollywood, a movie series is the standard for a blockbuster. As long as the production is not bad, the box office will not be bad. The copyright for this movie series is worth at least $200 million, and there are a few other movies that are worth a few $1,000,000 to tens of millions of dollars. In total, it's not more than $30 million. It's just a bonus, Steven said. I don't have that much cash, but the bank should be happy to lend me money. For banks, they were never afraid of people borrowing money. They were only afraid of people not borrowing money. This was especially true for someone like Chen Zhao, who had many high-quality properties under his name. The Mountain Beer brand alone was worth more than $5 billion. Chen Zhao still had most of the shares. Even if he had to borrow a few $1,000,000,000, the banks would fight over it, let alone a few $100 million. With Nafa Twain's current situation, $650 million should be his bottom line, Steven said. Steven had given a total price. In fact, this kind of copyright negotiation needed to be done one by one. Call your lawyer over, Steven said. I'll explain it to him. Steven was Chen Zhao's advisor, but he would not be involved in the copyright sale. Even he did not dare to face DSN directly. As long as one was in Hollywood, one could not ignore the existence of DSN. Only outsiders like Chen Zhao didn't care about DSN at all. DSN couldn't do anything to him. This was also why Nafa Twain had found Chen Zhao. Because Nafa Twain didn't know how many of the people who contacted him were sent by DSN. Then, Alex came with her team of lawyers to talk to Steven. Alex knew that Chen Zhao and Steven were friends. After all, Alex had been present at Jerlin's birthday. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao and the legal team went to the place they had agreed to meet Nafa Twain. Nafa Twain had fallen so much that he did not even have a lawyer. He was holding on. If he continued like this, he would either die in the hands of the loan sharks or compromise with DSN. But now, Chen Zhao had come to stop him, so DSN had nothing to do. The negotiation began. Nafa Twain gave a total price of $800 million. Chen Zhao told the legal team to pack up and leave. What a joke. This guy thought he was a fool. With the initiative in Chen Zhao's hands, the negotiation was easy. Chen Zhao's bottom line for Alex was that the negotiation could fail, but not a single cent more than what she wanted. Chen Zhao was a capitalist. Nafa Twain was also a capitalist. Talking about feelings between capitalists. What kind of feelings were there to talk about? With Chen Zhao's words, Alex felt much more confident. To Chen Zhao, he would at most earn less money. Chen Zhao could not earn this hard-earned money. But Nafa Twain could not. If the negotiation failed, he would have to accept DSN's exploitation. DSN's money was not enough to pay off his debt. To him, the bottom line was to pay off the debt. The negotiation was in a stalemate. Both sides had different prices. Of course, it was a stalemate. But Chen Zhao still had the initiative. Alex and the legal team had so many people, so they were more powerful. Nafa Twain could not do anything alone because Chen Zhao kept his bottom line. His bottom line was about the same as Nafa Twain's debt, just a bit lower. Mr. Chen, I can sign the agreement, but I hope you can raise the price to $700 million. That's impossible. I can't pay that much. Chen Zhao shook his head. If you're not sincere, then our negotiation ends here. Mr. Chen, as long as I pay off the debt and redeem 30% of Marina's restaurant's shares, I'm willing to sell all of them to you at the lowest price, Nafa Twain said, gritting his teeth. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. If that was the case, he could consider it. If you add 30% of Marina's restaurant's shares, I can consider $700 million. Chapter 1540. In addition to the 30% shares of Marina Restaurant, Chen Zhao finally agreed to the $700 million deal. Of course, the money wasn't paid immediately. After signing the contract, Chen Zhao immediately transferred the first $150 million to Nafa Twain. Then, he would transfer the remaining $550 million to Nafa Twain in 3 months. This money could help Nafa Twain solve his urgent problems. He wouldn't be hacked to death on the streets. But in the next 3 months, Chen Zhao had to raise $550 million. As soon as Chen Zhao returned home, he received a call from an unknown number. Hello, are you Mr. Chen? Hello, are you Mr. Chen? I am. Who's this? I'm the executive director of DSN Films. My name is Mark Bonin. Hello, Mr. Mark. How can I help you? Mr. Chen, I heard that you made a deal with Nafa Twain today and bought all of his copyrights. Mr. Mark, you're really well informed. Chen Zhao had already expected Bonin to contact him. However, he didn't expect him to be so fast. Less than 2 hours after he and Nafa Twain signed the contract, DSN Films already knew the news. Mark Bonin tried to speak calmly. Mr. Chen, do you know that what you're doing is very immoral? DSN Films had prepared for half a year for those movie copyrights. DSN Films was even involved in Nafa Twain's debt crisis. Now that they were about to reap the rewards, they were unexpectedly intercepted at the critical moment. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't feel happy. Immoral. Mr. Mark, did I break the law? Chen Zhao sneered. Mr. Chen, I hope you know what kind of opponent you're facing, Mark Bonin threatened. Hiss, Chen Zhao laughed mockingly. It was true that he wasn't on the same level as DSN, but DSN Film and DSN Media weren't in the same system. Chen Zhao and DSN Film and DSN Media weren't in the same industry, so he wasn't afraid of them at all. It was just like how Hollywood wasn't afraid of Wall Street. Even though they weren't on the same level, different industries had their own rules. He might not be invincible in the beer industry, but he was at the top. How could DSN Films deal with him? Even the DSN media company behind him couldn't do anything to him. Mr. Mark, Chen Zhao said calmly. If you're here to punish me, then we can't talk anymore. Mark Bonin had also used his connections to investigate Chen Zhao's background, but he didn't know the details. He only knew that Chen Zhao was very rich and his bank's credit rating was the highest, even higher than his. Mark Bonin was only a high-level manager. In terms of personal wealth, Chen Zhao couldn't compare to him. This put Mark Bonin in a very difficult position. DSN Films was able to run amok in Hollywood, and even acted in a domineering manner with other partners. But once he left Hollywood, he would be helpless. After all, DSN Films was just a film company, not some evil force. But now, the rights to 2 movie series with great potential were in Chen Zhao's hands. This made DSN Films even more helpless. In particular, DSN Films was already preparing for the 7th movie. They'd invested more than $30 million in it. Originally, Mark Bonin wanted to wait until he got the rights to Stealing God and then start filming immediately. But now, Na Twain had sold the rights to someone else. This meant that Chen Zhao's authority in this movie series was the same as DSN Films. As long as Chen Zhao didn't agree, the movie series couldn't be filmed. Not only would the $30 million they'd invested go to waste, but even their 50% of the rights would be gone. This was too great a loss. Even as the executive director, he couldn't bear the consequences. His domineering words were actually Mark Bonin's probing method. Mr. Chen, tell me. What do you want? I'm a businessman, Chen Zhao said honestly. My first priority is to ensure that my interests aren't harmed. Mr. Chen, do you want to invest in our movie? I can use my authority to give you the right to enter. Ha! Chen Zhao laughed. Hollywood was a place that ate people without spitting out their bones. Even if an outsider like Chen Zhao entered, he'd be eaten up without leaving a single bone. Hollywood had its own rules. Even if it was a profitable movie, the studio could make it a loss. It was impossible for Chen Zhao to get money from Hollywood. Chen Zhao had never thought about making money from this. His intention for buying the rights was to become a middleman and make quick money. Mark Bonin cursed silently. Indeed, rich people weren't easy to fool. Mr. Chen, sell your rights to our company. We'll owe you a favor. What the fuck? A favor from a big company's executive was like a fart. Chen Zhao had to be crazy to accept this favor. Mr. Mark, let's talk about something more practical. Name your price. If it's suitable, the rights are yours, $400 million. I only want 50% of the rights to Thief. Bye. Chen Zhao hung up. Does this guy think I'm a fool? Even if I let the rights rot in my hands, Chen Zhao wouldn't sell them at a loss. Mark Bonin's expression darkened. He looked at the phone that had already been cut off. The price just now was just a test. In fact, he knew the exact price Chen Zhao had paid for the rights. Na Twain didn't plan on hiding it. However, he didn't expect Chen Zhao to hang up so decisively. Mark Bonin called Chen Zhao again. Mr. Chen, we can talk again. The rights to Thief, $600 million. Not a cent less. If you don't accept it, I'd rather let the rights rot in my hands. Mr. Chen, $600 million is too high. We can invest in the production together. Sorry, I don't have any confidence in your credibility. Maybe you can make my money go down the drain with a different method. Why should I trust you? For example, DSN Films only needed to prepare a bill. The original production cost was $100 million. If Chen Zhao said 300 million, there was nothing he could do. Chapter 1541. Cheating on the production cost was the most basic method. Originally, renting a machine only cost $100,000, but they increased it to $1 million. There were too many loopholes in the plan. For example, they could negotiate with the distributor and make a negative contract. They specialized in tricking outsiders like Chen Zhao. As a middleman, Chen Zhao had a certain amount of risk. If he didn't have enough profit, why would he get involved? Chen Zhao was rich, but he wouldn't say no to money. "I can't decide this alone," Mark Bonin said helplessly. "Then let's discuss," Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. "When there's a result, I'll inform my lawyer." Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry, but DSN Films was. Chen Zhao used his own money to buy the movie rights. On the other hand, DSN Films' money belonged to the major shareholders. Even the COE of DSN Films couldn't just wave his hand and say that he didn't want the rights anymore, then throw his money into the water. If they did that, the shareholders would criticize them to death. This was the trouble with listed companies. Their decisions would often be influenced by a portion of people. These people might not decide the company's future, but they could decide the COE's future. The problem DSN Films faced now was that they could either buy the rights from Chen Zhao, or they could let the 50% of the rights to Stealing God fall into their own hands. Based on the box office performance of the previous movie in the series and the surrounding performances, after all, not every movie could make $300 million. Even if it was one of the big six, its annual profit might not even reach $300 million. The shareholders definitely wouldn't allow the rights to Stealing God to fall. Moreover, they'd already invested $30 million in pre-production. The shareholders knew that Chen Zhao didn't just have the 50% rights to Stealing God. He also had the agreement with Nafa Twain. The value of the agreement wasn't low, and Chen Zhao didn't plan on transferring it. One had to know that for a movie star of Nafa Twain's level, his salary was 2 + 1, or even 2 + 2. 2 + 1 meant $20 million plus 10% of the box office. This was the pay of a top star. Nafa Twain might not be considered a top superstar, but he was the soul of the Stealing God series. Therefore, the film company would never replace him unless it was absolutely necessary. Changing the lead was a big taboo in Hollywood. DSN persisted for 2 days before they finally relented and accepted the copyright deal. $660 million to buy 50% of the copyright of Stealing God, plus that agreement. Actually, if DSN Films had not been too greedy and insisted on trapping Nafa Twain to death, Nafa Twain wouldn't sell the copyright to Chen Zhao either. Come to think of it, it was their own fault. Out of the $700 million, he had earned back $660 million. He also had the rights to The Extraordinary Life and a few other smaller movies. Although DSN was still drooling over The Extraordinary Life, they really could not come up with more cash to buy the movie rights of this series, so they could only put it aside for the time being. He had planned to borrow money from the bank, but now he didn't have to. Even if DSN didn't want it, he could sell it to other companies. No matter how he sold it, he wouldn't lose money. It was said that money could make money. At this moment, Chen Zhao clearly felt how easy it was for rich people to make money. Of course, Chen Zhao also had risks. After all, if DSN Films was more forceful, there was nothing Chen Zhao could do. This was actually a process of psychological warfare. They would see who could outlast the other. Chen Zhao's pressure was the bank's loan interest. The longer it dragged on, the lower the value of the copyright. DSN Films' pressure came from their internal shareholders. Chen Zhao had won this round, but it couldn't be said that DSN Films had lost. The real loser was only Nafa Twain. However, Nafa Twain had killed himself. Chen Zhao's biggest gain was that he now had all the shares of Marina's restaurant. Wenk Sieg was currently standing in the center of an ancient hall. There were 3 stone chairs on the wall of the main hall, and 3 old men were sitting on each of the 3 chairs. Wenk Sieg, you've really disappointed me. Because of your recklessness, we've lost 60 people. Among them, 12 are spiritualists. The old man sitting in the middle had a heavy pressure. His eyes were like torches as he stared at Wenk Sieg. The 3 old men were the 3 elders of the Hunters Guild. They were also the leaders of their respective factions. The 3 elders were named after the Hermit, Judgment, and Wheel of Fortune from tarot cards. Every faction had power struggles, including the Hunters Guild. The Judgment and Wheel of Fortune's factions were obviously fighting. The Hermit was neutral. Wenk Sieg was from the Judgment faction. She was also the elder's student. The one who had questioned her was the Wheel of Fortune's elder. His intention was, of course, to suppress Wenk Sieg and the Judgment faction. This time, Wenk Sieg had led a team to attack the Turan ghost ship and caused huge losses. This also gave the Wheel of Fortune's elder a chance to exert pressure. Do you have anything else to say, my child? The Hermit elder asked. My child. Her tone was gentle. She sounded like she was questioning, but also like she was trying to relieve Wenk Sieg's pressure. I can't say anything, Wenk Sieg said. If that's the case, you should be judged by the guild. Don't you think so, Punisher? The Wheel of Fortune's elder looked at the Elder of Judgment. The Elder of Judgment was in charge of the Hunters Guild's internal judgment and punishment. The Wheel of Fortune's elder wanted the Elder of Judgment to punish her student personally. The Elder of Judgment opened his eyes quietly. He saw Wenk Sieg's proud gaze. Her student didn't seem to admit defeat. 3 elders, I hope I can redeem myself with merit. Ha! How do you plan to redeem yourself? The Elder of Judgment asked. I hope to complete 3 missions from the Scarlet Church. Are you going to bring more people to their deaths again? The Wheel of Fortune's elder sneered. No, just me. You brought so many people and failed. Now you're saying you're alone. Are you sure you're not messing with us? If I fail, just let me die outside, Wenk Sieg said. The 3 elders were shocked. The Elder of Judgment looked at his beloved student. Wenk, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, Elder of Judgment. Just like what the Wheel of Fortune said, I need to be responsible for my actions. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Godly Emperor mobile version. Chapter 1542. After leaving the palace, Wenk Sieg followed behind the Elder of the Judiciary. Teacher, I'm sorry for making you worry. The elder walked silently until he reached the edge of the forest. Wenk, you know, if you just accepted the punishment, you wouldn't be in such a desperate situation. I could at least save your life, but why did you make such a heavy promise in front of everyone? Even if I wanted to help you, I couldn't, the Elder of the Magic Court said in a harsh tone. Wenk, you know that if you just accepted the punishment, you wouldn't be in such a desperate situation. Teacher, I do need your support this time. You know that I don't have many people left. It's not enough to help you complete those missions. No, I need money. The Elder of the Magic Court was stunned. Was his student trying to escape? However, this thought was fleeting, and he laughed at himself in his heart. You want money to hire people? The Elder of the Magic Court asked. Yes. Are you sure you can hire people you can use? For the Elder, if this could be solved with money, it wouldn't be a problem at all. After all, the Hunters Guild had existed for 200 to 300 years. Its accumulated wealth had reached a terrifying level. The Grand Elder of the Judgment Realm was considered a super-rich person in the outside world. However, the presiding elder also knew how strong the spiritualists outside were and how strong they were. There were only a few who could fight. Moreover, it was a mission from the Scarlet Church. Every single one of those missions was extremely difficult. Almost every one of them was said to be impossible to complete. Yes, Wang Sieg answered calmly. I know who can help me. How much money do you need? The elder asked. The more, the better. I'll give you 200 million in advance. If it's not enough, you can ask me again. Okay. Chen, I heard that you have a few movie copyrights, right? Rasfa asked even though he already knew the answer. Chen Zhao pouted. He lay on the beach, not even looking at Rasfa. Just say it. Stop beating around the bush. Sell them all to me, Rasfa said. How much? 300 million, Rasfa said. Get someone to contact my lawyer. He had bought the copyrights for 700 million. In just 3 to 4 days, he had sold them for 960 million. Speaking of which, he really made a lot of money. However, 300 million US dollars was indeed a friendly price. If it were another buyer, Chen Zhao would have asked Alex to bring some people to spar with them and raise the price. However, Rasfa obviously didn't need to go through so much trouble. This was how networking worked. With everyone's friendship, there was no need to fight over a price difference of tens of millions of dollars. Rasfa gave Chen Zhao a profitable price. At the same time, he wouldn't have to pay a lot. This was where Rasfa was smart. He grasped the situation perfectly. By the way, when will our movie be shown? October 1st, at the same time as China, Rasfa said. Oh. Chen Zhao was surprised. He knew that the Chinese market was the second largest film market in the world. However, the fact that the movie was scheduled for the National Day showed how much importance Rasfa and Steven placed on this movie. However, the National Day slot was also an important slot for domestic movies. There would definitely be many heavyweight domestic movies released. As an outsider and not a Super A production, it was impossible for them to compete with domestic movies in terms of movie scheduling. It wasn't easy to fight his way out of the tight encirclement on the National Day. Chen Zhao didn't doubt Steven's ability, but he didn't know if Steven could make a movie that suited the Chinese taste. At least, Chen Zhao knew very well that the most popular movies in the domestic film industry were comedies and Hollywood special effects blockbusters. Hollywood's blockbusters were popular all over the world, let alone special effects blockbusters. As for domestic comedies, they took up almost half of the top 10 domestic movies in the box office every year. The movie that the three of them had invested in and produced was a more traditional police and gangster movie. In the Chinese market, police and gangster movies had always been in the middle. The box office wasn't low, but it wouldn't be high either. At least in the recent years, there had never been a police and gangster movie that could make it into the top 10 of the annual box office. Plus, it was during the highly competitive National Day slot. Chen Zhao really doubted if their movie could make it out of the tight encirclement. Is it your idea or Steven's? Chen Zhao asked. Chen Zhao wouldn't interfere with any of Rasfa and Steven's decisions regarding the movie. This was the attitude and duty of an outsider investor. Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't think that he could criticize two professionals just because he was an investor. Steven said you have an idea, Rasfa said. Do you have connections in China too? Rasfa was also very curious about Chen Zhao's idea. Chen Zhao smiled. That's a secret. Steven didn't reveal the lucky coin. Steven knew very well that it was too rare. If one more person knew about it, he would have one less chance to use it. Chen Zhao also didn't want too many people to know about the lucky coin. Apart from giving the lucky coin to Stephen twice, Chen Zhao didn't use it on other money-making things. Money could be earned, but the lucky coin couldn't be duplicated. For example, on the day of Fei Lai's delivery, Chen Zhao had her hold on to a lucky coin. Chen Zhao also used a lucky coin himself. The lucky coin wasn't a dragon. It couldn't fulfill impossible wishes. The lucky coin's function was to let the user do something that they could already do. For example, winning the lottery was about luck, not ability. For example, whether an athlete could break the world record was mostly decided by luck. If an ordinary person stood on the field, he wouldn't be able to win even with the lucky coin. Because he wasn't strong enough, the lucky coin couldn't make up for the difference. A while later, Stephen came too. The three of them went out to sea on the Hydra. "Chen, you don't want Mirror Lake anymore, right?" "Sell it to me," Stephen said with a beer belly. He was shirtless and holding a can of beer. "Don't even think about it," Chen Zhao said. "I'm already rebuilding the Mirror Lake mansion. I don't plan on giving it up." Mirror Lake was an important water source for Mountain's beer. The vineyard there was also very important. Chen Zhao wouldn't sell it even at 10 or 100 times the price, let alone tens of millions. Moreover, there were other things in Mirror Lake that couldn't be exposed. Chapter 1543. There are so many lakes around Los Angeles. Do you have to keep staring at my Mirror Lake? Chen Zhao said in annoyance. He lifted the fishing rod in his hand. Roar! A fish took the bait. Stephen lifted the rod and a mackerel was pulled up. However, the fish only seemed to weigh 2 kilograms. Stephen easily lifted it onto the deck. Point me to a lake with a better environment than your Mirror Lake. Stephen pursed his lips. Mirror Lake has a good environment because of my management, Chen Zhao said. In the beginning, Mirror Lake might not be better than the others. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought it for me. Stephen obviously knew this, but he just wanted to pick up what was already there. However, he also knew that without Chen Zhao's abilities, even if he bought a piece of land like Mirror Lake himself, he probably wouldn't be able to reach Mirror Lake standard. He didn't really understand, but he could vaguely feel that Mirror Lake wasn't normal. The air in Mirror Lake was already abnormally clean. Stephen had done a comparison before. The air quality in Mirror Lake was even better than in New Zealand. The air quality could even reach the level of an uninhabited natural environment. Mirror Lake wasn't completely isolated from the world. Mountain Town was a few kilometers away. Being able to purify the air there to such a pure and natural degree was not something that modern technology could achieve. That was the reason why Stephen was so envious. This wasn't the first time Stephen had asked Chen Zhao for something. Chen Zhao would tell him to scram every time. "How about we have a bet?" Stephen asked. "Let's have a fishing competition." Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. "If I win, you can't ask me for Mirror Lake anymore." "Okay. If I win, you'll sell Mirror Lake to me." "I can give it to you directly," Chen Zhao said. "How can I miss out on such an interesting thing?" Rasfa clearly didn't want to be left behind. "Rasfa, your manor is so big. You still want to fight with me for Mirror Lake?" "Chen Bai is giving it to me," Rasfa said matter-of-factly. He also liked Mirror Lake. Of course, it wasn't to the extent that he would steal it. He was just here to join in the fun. Chen Zhao chuckled. This was the ocean, his territory. "You haven't even won and you're already deciding who Mirror Lake belongs to." Chen Zhao sneered. "I've participated in fishing competitions before." Stephen said confidently, "I once caught a 300-kilogram bluefin tuna." "Then I'll wait and see," Chen Zhao said indifferently. "Let's begin." Chen Zhao's small world covered the water and the water. He knew everything about their hooks. Chen Zhao secretly controlled the water flow and washed away their bait. At the same time, Chen Zhao used the water flow. Whenever a big fish appeared, he would use the water flow to control it. Then he would hook it and it would take the bait. Chen Zhao suddenly pulled and a 30-centimeter long fish was pulled out of the water. Damn, he took the bait so quickly. Steven and Rasfa's expressions froze. You lost. Chen Zhao grinned. Wait, you didn't mention the time just now. Let's add on now. Within 3 hours, let's see who catches the biggest fish and who catches the most fish. Fine. Chen Zhao shrugged. Chen Zhao cast out the fishing line again, this time in the 20-meter area. At the same time, Chen Zhao secretly ordered the 5 tiger generals to chase the big fish in the nearby waters. Soon, a huge sailfish appeared in the nearby waters. Chen Zhao used the same trick again. He first used the water flow to catch the sailfish. Then he controlled the water flow to guide the hook to the fish. Splash, the sailfish jumped out of the water. Chen Zhao immediately pulled the wheel. A big fish took the bait. The fish was almost 3.5 meters long. It was too big. Humans could barely catch it with fishing. Steven and Rasfa both looked at Chen Zhao. The fishing rod had already bent into the shape of a full moon. The sailfish kept jumping in the water, trying to break free from the hook and line. Chen Zhao had to use his immortal power to pour into the rod and line. If Chen Zhao didn't use his immortal power, the sailfish would definitely snap the rod or line. This sailfish might have a weight of 400 kilograms, and its strength in the sea could reach a pulling force of 1,000 kilograms. Steven and Rasfa didn't care about the bet anymore. They all looked at Chen Zhao, watching the battle of strength between a human and a fish. They wanted to help, but there was nothing they could do. Actually, Chen Zhao didn't need their help. Under the infusion of immortal power, the fishing rod and fishing line became extremely tough. Chen Zhao turned the wheel bit by bit and reeled in the line. The sailfish seemed to have an inexhaustible amount of energy as it continued to struggle. But it wasn't facing a human at all. After half an hour of struggle, the sailfish finally couldn't resist anymore. It floated in the sea, occasionally waving its tail. When it was pulled to the edge of the boat, Chen Zhao called, "Rasfa, go get the harpoon." Rasfa immediately found the harpoon. Fishing nets and harpoons were necessary when fishing on the sea. After all, the chances of catching a big fish were higher. Also, a super big fish like this had to be pulled up with a harpoon. Chen Zhao took the harpoon. He held the fishing rod with one hand and stabbed the harpoon into the sailfish's body with the other. The sailfish struggled again, but it was already at death's door. Chen Zhao pulled hard and pulled the sailfish onto the deck. Out of the water, the sailfish jumped around again. All of you, back off a little. This guy is very dangerous. The head of a sailfish was like a sword. There were records of sailfish stabbing people to death. Stepping on the sailfish, Chen Zhao took a knife and stabbed it in the head, ending its life. Do you still want to compete? Chen Zhao looked at Steven and Rasfa. Chen, pull the fish up. I want to take a picture with it. Steven wasn't thinking about the competition now. He wanted to show off. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Steven was really smug. However, this sailfish was really big. At this moment, it was like a perfect piece of art. It lay peacefully on the deck, and the blood had gathered to form a small area. Let's measure its length and weight first, Rasfa said. He also wanted to be one of the contributors to this sailfish. Chen, Rasfa and I caught it, Steven said shamelessly. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Fine. Chen Zhao didn't plan on competing with them. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.